We are live on Life in Space, the YouTube channel, and today we have a special guest with us, Studio Stargazer. He's got some really cool stuff that you guys got to check out. Seriously, it's super awesome. He does podcasts, music. In fact, I'm going to play some music in the background right here. This is actually his work here, and I'm actually really blown away with the orchestration that he has on this. I think it's Eye of Odin, which is a new thing that he put together. And I'm just really digging your music, man. It's so cool. The creativity and the ideas, the orchestration, and just the melodies that you have are super unique. And I think it's a great time to be creative. I think it's a great time to talk about creativity and just get people excited for it, because there's going to be a lot of cool things happening in the future of music. And I think it's going to start here right now on, let's say, this whole ecosystem of things that we have going on, which is podcasting, music, all together coming into one universe. And that's what Studio Stargazer is doing. So just want to say thanks for showing up today. We really, really appreciate you showing up here. Yeah, we're just going to hang out and have fun, just talk about stuff, creativity, and just maybe have some cool ideas. Maybe we can come up with some cool stuff and just, make something new. So we're making new friendships and things like that all across the place, and just having fun. So can everybody hear the music? Is it little? Is it loud enough or too loud? Or I just want to make sure it's perfect in the right area, so that way it's not too much of one thing or the other. So is everybody can hear? Yep. All right. So basically, yeah. I just want to say that. This guy right here does some really interesting stuff. The podcast you do, the quality of it, I am just really blown away. The characters you have, the music, everything that's put together, it is just, honestly, it's super professional. You, I think, should be in the movie industry, to be honest with you. How do you come up with these ideas? It's just super cool. I think I'm getting an audio problem.
You're muted.
Hold on one sec. It's muted?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you. Yeah, Studio Stargazer muted.
Oh, it's muted.
I think.
Let me see here.
Could be that you're muting him.
Is it good? We lost his audio. How did that happen? Oh my goodness. Already troubleshooting things. Okay, let's see here. Let's take the music down just a little bit, and then we can try to troubleshoot what's happening. For some reason, the audio is not coming through. We might have to re-add you. Let me see if I can add you, or if I can reset it somehow. Can you hear us?
Huh.
Oh no. Boy, okay, we're off to a good start. Let me send you the link again and see if that'll fix the problem.
I don't know. The video's working.
Yeah, his video's working.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, we have audio.
Right.
Fantastic.
I don't know what happened there. My bad.
Hey, it's always got to be something every stream.
Yeah, exactly.
At least one.
Oh, where were we? Yeah. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about Eye of Odin for a brief moment, especially you playing it, which is very flattering. It's probably the most unique project that I've put together, because I made it specifically for a theater piece. Because as I said, I do podcasts and things, but I'm trying to kind of redefine how people think about what a podcast is. We have the tools and music and sound design and things to bring new levels of dimension, especially when it comes to storytelling. So this whole album is for the theater piece, A Bigger Table, that we did. First version of it was 2020, and this was when people really weren't able to get together with their families, a lot of them, because of the pandemic situation. So celebrating virtual Thanksgiving. And the story takes place in like the 1600s. So I knew it needed a really unique sound to it that felt old but still kind of modern. So I actually composed this album as if it were an electronica album. I just used, flutes and lutes and piccolos and shit to kind of bring it to life that way. But it's one of my favorite albums that I've done. I suppose it's the last one, the most recent, which is actually kind of sad because that was 2 years ago.
Oh,
so
was it?
I haven't made anything new in that long, which is why I'm very excited to get the creativity ball rolling with particularly other producers, other sound guys. I'm like, yes, get some collaborative stuff going.
I find flutes especially difficult to find or to get or to do or to play.
I can't play actual woodwinds for crap. I'm pretty decent on the not the ocarina, the recorder. Ocarinas are really hard to play.
Yeah.
But like actual flutes and stuff, no. This is almost all software instruments.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. I find it hard to find good samples or software instruments, and on the MC 101, I finally found a pretty decent pan flute, which I've just been in search of for years and stuff like that. It's hard, but playing them on the keyboard is even harder.
Yeah, it's amazing sounding. I mean, honestly, I would have thought you were playing a flute because the quality of it is amazing too, and the clarity and just the whole overall feeling of just, like you said, it's modern, but it makes you feel like you're still kind of like you're watching a Lord of the Rings film or something. And I don't know. This should be in a film. This should be in like a full feature, like AAA Hollywood film. I mean, I can see it that way. It sounds so nice, and it just gives you a awesome feeling. So I got to give it to you that this is honestly something I've been really trying to figure out how to do some orchestration like this myself. I've been kind of getting in that area where I'm looking into string instruments and maybe like, some woodwind instruments as well. I just can't figure out how to work them together and make something sound good. I'm really good kind of like figuring out maybe like a solo part just with one instrument. But this is like the best of everything. So, and you did this 2 years ago, you said?
Yeah. I wrote this whole album, I think, within the span of a week or something, because we were in the middle of the production. Okay. And it's actually the whole album is actually just one Logic Pro project that I made all these different alternatives for. So all the instruments, there's a lot of crossover, so that they sound the same. It sounds like the same tavern band. This weird little Renaissance fair invented.
Yeah.
So did you have to like time them to their dance or to their scene or something like that, or
a little bit? The Books track, the one that you opened up with, is the first time people hear Eye of Odin in that piece, and I added some tables and chairs moving out of the way, and then the stomping on the floor. You can actually hear simulated dancing because you can't see anything. It's all audio, so we really rely on the imagination to pick up those audio cues. So when I'm designing a scene, like the tavern sounds a very specific way compared to like the home or the the trail going up into the woods or whatever. These are all, each scene has its own unique feel to it. So the tavern, you're hearing bars, glasses clanking and people kind of muttering in the corner and things. And that's one of my favorite things to do is to try and paint the scenes just with audio only. But I think that's really the only track where I went out of my way to synchronize, to make it sound like they were dancing.
That's cool
in that scene. And it's a little off. It's a little off, but gets it close enough. It feels organic.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, to be honest with you, like, it kind of reminds me of like being in like a video game in a sense. Like if you kind of picture like being in like a bar, like you're talking about, like in a tavern, and I can see like a video game kind of happening there too. And the idea that you're creating theater with audio is also really, it's profound, because I never looked at it that way. I've always thought of podcasting as like, I'll just have my opinion and I'll just talk and I'll just go on for as long as I possibly can. But thinking about something more in depth and creating an environment and then using all these sounds to paint a picture is just something that I wish I could get to that level. I never quite got there, but it's something that I strive to do, because I find myself wanting to tell more of a story rather than just having like facts or something that I think about. This is more of like story based, and that's what's unique about it. So I find it very unique, and I find it very fascinating what you've done here. And this is actually just one of the ideas you've had. You've actually done several of these before. You've done some like podcasting of like different stories. I've heard one. It was like these little, I think they were like mice or something. They were talking about. What was that one? I forget.
The holiday mouse.
Yeah, that's
the Christmas trip on acid.
Christmas.
Yeah. Well, it. The piece comes from one of our former writers. Was latency. An elementary school teacher for a long time, and this was back in the days where they weren't allowed to call it Christmas. So he wrote this play for middle schoolers back in the day, and used to do it on stage, and then we adapted that into audio and moused the voices, and I just added all kinds of silly crap in there. I added some like rap battle type stuff, which was like felt super out of place, but somehow really worked.
Yeah.
Made it a little bit more of a musical. That was fun. A Bigger Table's probably the most comprehensive single piece, which is actually a prequel, spoiler alert, to Only Through Fire. And Only Through Fire is the same village a couple years later when kind of everything hits the fan. Spoiler alert, everybody dies in this village. There's a reason we've never heard of the village, and it's because it's one of those that was lost to history. So that one is incredibly dark. Bigger Table, we wanted to make, kind of sweet and like feeling like coming home back to the family and everything's nice. And there are a few moments of darkness in there, but they're, it's all through the eyes of a child also, which is kind of helpful to understand. We experience that story through the eyes of a 5-year-old who's just exploring and running around. Collecting Pretties is the name of this one. And my favorite scene, I think, in that is when she's going through the forest. She's collecting butterfly wings. She's ripping off butterfly wings because she thinks they're pretty and she wants to hang them on her wall. And the village undertaker discovers that she's doing this and sits her down and goes, "Well, honey, he needs those wings. Don't do that," And the kind of funeral for a butterfly in that scene is, just I don't know. It's sweet. I try not because I do get really emotionally invested in the stories as well. So I just bawling. I think most of the whole time I was in production on A Bigger Table, I was just crying my eyes off. And this is a whiskey fueled album for sure. I think I killed like 2 bottles of whiskey just making this damn thing because it was painful. But we are planning on going some very exciting new directions outside of the Magical Tavern Kingdom. But a good ear on the video game thing, because it is definitely video game inspired. The whole thing. You can actually hear some stuff where you're like, wait, is that Ocarina? Because like of time, there's a few scenes where I got a little close on the melody on purpose to be like to remind people of that kind of nostalgic vibe.
That's so cool. So a lot of this is story based, and so when you start your technique, the things that you do with your music, do you go off of the idea that you have a story in mind when you're making a song, or is that something that comes in the process?
It's a little bit of both. I'll usually have a pretty good idea of where I want to go, but it always changes, in the moment too. With Eye of Odin, I think I only actually used 5 or 6 of the songs from the album on in the piece. The rest of it was just kind of made around it to help create, the vibe and the whole, comprehensive vision of what Eye of Odin would actually be. I didn't just want to make, 2 or 3 songs for this band, because there's tons of other music in the show, but it comes from elsewhere. In the first version, it's all my other music too, my other winter albums. And then I did the reboot this past year using Epidemic artists, which provides a very different kind of more cinematic, more Hollywood style vibe to it. But I just go where the flow takes me.
Yeah, same here. Like I never ever had a process where I was actually thinking of a story when I was making a song. I never got that deep. I always kind of just roll with it. I put something into my playlist. I maybe make a melody or something like that, and then I'll see where it goes. But your electronic music is really cool too. This is your stuff here, right, right? Correct?
Yes, thank you.
It's amazing. That's cool.
This is out there. This is an old one, I think.
Yeah.
This may have been from the original version of it anyway. I think it's like from 2012, 2014, maybe. And then I rebooted it, every couple years, went back and did a new version, cleaned it up a little bit.
Nice.
But yeah, this is actually one of the ones that's will probably go up here in the sci-fi piece somewhere, because right now the current theater project that's on the table is in production currently is UI-86, which is my original sci-fi story, which I will try not to spoil too much, but it's all of the best things about my favorite sci-fi franchises, and just taking away the kind of goofy aliens and the laser guns and all of that, and taking it really down to things like consciousness. It's centered around AI and how AI becomes conscious, and what are the kinds of things that it learns from human minds to reach that point, that singularity of that. So that's got some super rad vibes in it too.
Cool.
Almost done, and you're going to be in it, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to try. I like to try out and do some voices for it. I know you're looking for people to do voices, so if anybody wants to do any voices for these shows, you're more than welcome to check it out at studiostargazer.org. He's got a website there, and you can email him or ask him if you need some help on there. And I'm sure you're looking for some people who could do some cool voices. I know Mr. Basic was doing some cool voices back there with that robot.
Yeah, the synth voice.
Synth voice.
That's too cool.
I dig it. See, we're like into the analog stuff. Mr. Basic's got some really cool analog gear behind him, and that's kind of mostly what we're into. Is we're doing a lot of the stuff with like the physical units, like the actual synthesizers. I dabble with some digital stuff. More recently I've been doing more digital stuff on my in my DAW and doing things within FL Studios and whatnot. But have you ever used like analog gear? Have you ever used any kind of equipment, or is it all 100% digital?
No, it's pretty much all digital. I do include some like live captures sometimes. Eye of Odin has a lot of like didgeridoo and Viking horn and other, I use like glass bottles and stuff. But no, in terms of gear, I've never sphere, and so I'm a little envious of that part of the domain, the actual analog gear domain, because I've never dipped toes in that, but it's something that I really admire. It would be the word.
There's a lot of cool stuff.
My old PCs had a hard time with the Arturia V collection and all that stuff, and Arturia sounds, which were just amazing, epic. Take up all your resources of your computer sounds that it just couldn't handle, and so I kind of ended up going this direction because of that, despite what I was trying to do in the first place. But I've gone back and forth enough to now I'm just kind of like I like both, even though now I just had another PC quit on me, so I'm like, all right, I'm back to hardware again.
Sure. And that's one nice thing about hardware, is that if you are like, limited on computer abilities and whatnot, you can actually do a majority of this stuff within just like on this synthesizer. And then when you're recording onto, like, let's say something like, some mixers have like built-in like SD cards you can record on, and then you can just import those back into your computer, or like an audio interface or whatnot. But yeah, it kind of takes a lot of the edge off. I know that my computer, I have a halfway decent computer, but it still has issues with like running everything I do all at once. Like yesterday, it was such a nightmare. My computer like crashed on me like 5 or 6 times. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't like FL Studios anymore. I don't know what's going on with it, but it has an issue where every time I try to load it, I get a blue screen of death, and it's got to be like a hard drive thing, I'm thinking, right? But everything boots back up and it's fine, and then it's just like maybe it's too much. And so the stuff that they're doing now with digital, it's so it's much more constraining now on these computers. It's a lot more detailed. It's a lot more just a lot of different things that you can add to like your whole soundtrack and everything. So just the ability for it to handle those things, sometimes it doesn't have that sound processing ability, I guess. But
games and VRs needs all that too. So you need a good PC no matter what anyway.
I know, it's funny. I have a laptop now. It's got RTX on it, and it's better than my own computer. But see, that thing for some reason also has an issue with even like just FL Studios too. It doesn't play things as smoothly. But I do have a sound card in this computer, and that kind of takes care of some of the issues. But it's just like always trying to figure out what's gonna work. It's always like, it's kind of the fun thing about it too, is figuring out what's gonna work. Equipment wise, and hooking all these things up and getting more elaborate and getting more detailed when it comes to adding things. That's also kind of the fun part of it, I think. But it just kind of boggles the mind sometimes when you have a system that's just so enormous, whether it's computers and hardware mixed together. It kind of gets, it's insane at some point.
I like that panning there.
Yeah, this is really cool, man. I'm listening to this song here. It's really nice.
Yeah, I do a lot with the with just breath noises and stuff too.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, all that crap. I'm glad you're talking about the computers, because there's no way that I could do what I do on a PC. There's just no way. So I've been pure Mac across the board for like a decade. So this is all Logic Pro.
That's right, Logic. Yeah, it's a Mac app, right?
Mm-hmm. Nice. Top shelf. It is premium. It's the big, sexy, robust version of GarageBand that does all of this crazy stuff. But it has a brilliantly simple user interface, super intuitive, and I can create project files that are. I hit my first one that was like 100 individual layers. Whoa. Of sound and music in a really short sequence. I think that was the Barstool. That was around Thanksgiving this last year. I did a sound design sequence of, the gunslinger going into the saloon and ordering a whiskey. And it's only like a 5-minute piece, but it is 100 layers deep in sound. And there's no way. I mean, I need like a $25,000 PC just to be able to render that in real time. So Apple does a fantastic job of packing that power into just I just use a little MacBook Pro. And
is that the same as Avid tools? Or I know there's a Pro Tools.
No, that's
or an
Pro
Avid.
Tools. Pro Tools and Logic Pro are different.
Oh, they are, okay. Yeah, because I've seen some stuff in like these magazines where they have these soundboards and they're designed for Mac, and I don't know if they do PC or not, but they have these really expensive pieces you can add into the computer, and this will like free up like all these extra like layers or tracks you can add to each individual project, and they have like sophisticated sound processing. And I think Avid makes that for the Mac, I believe, but they are really expensive. Like what you're talking about, like $25,000 just for like this card that goes in your computer, and it expands you to like thousands of tracks per like every individual audio file that you're trying to process or whatever, which is quite amazing. But you can do all this in Logic. That's cool. I know that there's one guy, Cuckoo, I think his name. He's on YouTube, and he does a lot of like stuff with digital and analog stuff, and he uses I believe he uses Logic all the time. He uses Logic for his main DAW. He always does these streams where he's using that, and so I've always wanted to try it. I do have a Mac, but it's not my studio computer. But there is some cool stuff I'd like to mess around with. But is there a yearly membership for that?
No.
No.
It's Logic Pro is lifetime, so I think it costs like the program itself through the App Store. I think it's like $200, $250, and then that's lifetime.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there are a couple of jam packs, added things, little add-ons that you can get for it, like world voices and different other software instruments and things. But just the basic off-the-shelf version of Logic Pro is enormous. I mean, I still have not even sampled all of the instruments and user presets and filters and things in there, and I've been working in it for like a decade. So Logic Pro by itself is enormous.
Yeah, nice.
In terms of what you can actually do.
But Glory to Glory says flutes are absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that was really cool. I like that Eye of Odin. Those flutes are amazing. And I think that just the stuff that you can do when it comes to just these sample-based instruments is just quite amazing. So, and Logic is really interesting too. I've always wanted to check it out. So, one of these days we'll see. But
the quality of the instruments just in the past, few years has gone through they sound real. Now, you'll hear some strings in this piece, and they're like articulated. I remember what MIDI instruments used to sound like in junior high. It's very cute, and nostalgic now, but no, the instruments sound real now, and you can articulate them and change. And it's my whole jam.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I loved all the sampler options in what was it, PreSonus Studio One I was using. The sounds are just out of this world amazing. You couldn't ask for more. And then the functions you could do with the sampler for those sounds was just like it was almost like you could working with a synth. You could do whatever to it and process it any way you want and play it that way. And it's just great. Good stuff. So,
and not to mention like all the cool effects you can add too, right?
And like polyphonic moogs. How do you how can you beat that?
Oh yeah. No,
do you ever? I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna ask if you ever have used any software modular or have like tried to learn synthesis in software or anything like that before.
Not really. Logic Pro has a bunch of stuff kind of built in. Like there's something happening in this one. I forget what's happening with that snare, but it's actually bouncing and moving around, and that's automated. It's like an AI thing. And then obviously the arpeggiators in Logic Pro are fucking nuts. But no, in terms of actually like manually doing it, no, all that stuff is under the hood.
Well, like adding LFOs and stuff like that, it's probably, you could do that. It might have like those plugins where it's just like you can modulate something like a side chain, for instance.
Oh yeah.
And that's pretty much like what you do in modular already.
Just stacking different plugins, because they're all right there, and it's like one click to add. There's like a bunch of different kinds of reverb. I like the chroma verb personally as a little tiddly bit.
What kind is that?
Chroma verb is, I'm not quite sure how to describe it, because older reverbs, they have that kind of not tinny, but there's I'm trying to think of a way to describe chroma verb in the way that it's different. It kind of sounds like a cosmic cave. It's like super full bodied, and when it renders on the screen when you're looking at it. The waveform comes up in like these waves of color, and you move and shape the curves to create the environment that you want, as opposed to just using sliders and things. You're literally working with this color curve, and you can see all these things bouncing everywhere, all particle effects. So it's a beautiful reverb just to look at, but it's also
That's cool.
a really deep, full-bodied, but still punchy, because it's either one or the other. You get this real tinny front and center thing, or you get that kind of drowned out larger space. And Chromaverb allows you to combine, like build one space in your mind. So I have one that, I literally call it the Cosmic Cave is my user preset for that one, because that's how it feels.
That sounds great. How you could shape it, even visually like that.
Yeah, it's super intuitive. It's like a 5-year-old can figure it out.
Cool.
And that's talking about the types of creativity and stuff with programs like, you got Reason, you got, I don't even know all the names of the other ones, but you need a freaking spaceship manual to operate those things.
Yeah.
They make it really, really difficult, and the music industry has been making it really difficult like that on purpose, because they don't want just anybody to be able to produce music. And Apple has taken the opposite tack. They're like, no, we want to make it as easy as possible for anybody and their dog to make music. Speaking of dogs, I don't know if you can hear
that was good timing there.
He's tripping.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good way to say it. I mean, honestly, like that's one thing that I do find is when you're digging deep into these digital workstations is that there's some that are just super, like, you have to go to school to learn it. You have to like dig so deep into it and learn every little individual thing, or you have to go and search on YouTube on how to do one particular thing, or like, how do I get this effect? How do I get that effect? Or how do I change this? I want to do this, but it's not letting me do this. I want to do that. And so there's just so much back and forth. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of digging through things. And that's why I think a lot of people were, I think in the past few years, were just kind of like, hey, I'm fed up with this. I just want to go with something like some sort of like analog hardware particular piece and just figure that out. And that can also be kind of a thing too if you don't know how to do that. I mean, it kind of goes both ways. But Logic, it sounds to me like they've actually kind of done some really interesting research, and they've done some stuff that, like you said, just works. And so that's fascinating. I never really dug into it, so this is something that I might check out once I get an opportunity and see exactly what that has to offer, because I'm always interested in seeing what each individual particular software does and what functions they have, if they're better than what I'm using and whatnot. I've always been really big into FL Studios. I don't know if you ever played around with that one very much.
Oh, not since it was Fruity Loops. So from like our original Fruity Loops, once upon a time, I learned how to sequence in Cakewalk. if I'm dating myself there.
I remember that one too. Yeah.
But yeah, Logic Pro is ridiculously intuitive. Billion times easier on purpose, which is why it's been my go-to. Sure, can I get some other really unique sounds out of some of these other DAWs? Yeah, probably. I can usually recognize. I can hear FL Studio has a quality to it that I can recognize, and I can also pick out if somebody's producing in Logic Pro, because I'm like, oh, I have that instrument.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a Logic boy till I die, for sure.
That's awesome. Nice.
It's like an extension of the mind.
It's cool to see other people's viewpoints and like what exactly they're up, what they're using or what they're up to, because everybody is totally different. Like I hear people that are like, oh, I swear Ableton is the best, or like you got to get into Steinberg's, what is it, Cubase. That's the one right there. I know there's some really great composers out there that just use Cubase. That's all they use. And I think Hans Zimmer is one of them. He's a Cubase guy. He just uses that, and it's amazing what you can do. I mean, where the imagination goes. I guess it really depends on how you approach your music, exactly what are you going to do with it, what is your thoughts, where's your mind going to lead you to, and what melody you're thinking of at the time.
Yeah.
I can never get the melody in my head down, though. I mean, that's one thing that I never really got down to learning, was actually how to play music. And I know that I've talked to many people that have said, they say the same thing. They've actually never really picked up an instrument and learned how to play it necessarily, but they like to dig around with playlists and piano rolls and making sequences in like on a something like a machine. Or what's that one you have, Mr. Basic? It's a what's the one you can make little jams with?
The which one?
It's like a little it looks like a machine, but it's smaller, and you can type in your sequences in it, and you can make different sounds and whatnot. It's got like a what's the name of it?
The circuit.
Circuit. That's what it is. Yeah, and so
that's been my main sequencer for all these years, just because it's the one that entices me to go to it and mess around.
Yeah. And sometimes that's just where that's pretty much where I end up at when it comes to my music, is that I just kind of mess around with things like that, and then I try to see if I can make something out of it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's kind of my level. But for you, I asked you one time that you said you weren't classically trained or anything like that. You just kind of learned how to do this?
I am probably if an actual piano person saw me playing, they'd be like, no, you're holding your hands all wrong. That's not how you do that. No, I'm completely self-taught. I've never taken music theory or any of that. I know which notes sound good together, because, just figure it out. Does this sound this one sound, this one sounds good with that one. So building up a handful of chord sets that I can just, jam around in. And then usually, I'm a really simple player, so I can use the whole keyboard, but usually if I'm I will transpose stuff all the time, because I'm I know that chord progression. I can't play that in the D sharp or what. I don't even know the name. Minor, for example. So we'll just take it all down, transpose it into the key that I know I can play in that, and yeah, it's just all by feel. I go entirely by feel. So dots on the page stuff. Ugh, get out of here.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
That's cool. That's same as me.
Yep.
Yeah, do you ever feel like the fact that you can just sound things out all the time has been a crutch to your getting things done or being creative? Just because it's, I don't know, because you have I wouldn't say talent maybe, but you have enough of you have an ear that you can pick things up and perceive music in such a way that you can always just go, all right, there, not there, there we go, and there we go. And do you ever feel like it gets in the way of your progressing more, that you ever feel like you could learn more?
Not really. And I get this question a lot, imagine what you could do if you actually learned music theory, and if you actually learned notation and stuff. And I always come back to losing something about there's my way that I do stuff. Sorry, my dog is very much distracting me. I'm gonna have to shut him up in a minute. But if for example, if I were to learn as it is taught, then I've always felt like I would be losing something about myself as an artist.
Exactly.
So I don't. No, that's always been my answer, because I'm well, then I'm not a self-taught musician anymore. Then I'm
yeah,
just kind of like everybody else. I think this might be a little weird or deep or esoteric or whatever. I feel like the dots and the lines on the page are really there as a teaching tool for people who don't understand music. If that sounds arrogant as hell, but it's no, I don't need that. I can sure, would I expand my list of potential chord sets and all that? Yeah, I probably would, but I think it would be ultimately I would be losing something in that process that I really want to maintain, this path, however long it takes, wherever it goes. And this is why I also don't really listen to music. People think I'm crazy. They're like, what do you mean you don't listen to music like other artists? I have a very, very short list of artists because I don't want to expose myself or my style and have it mix too much with other people's styles. I'm kind of selfish in that, like, it should sound like me. But as you can tell, just from the random samplings here, I sound like a lot of different things depending on what I'm doing. So
It's
yeah, that
amazing,
makes sense to influence yourself to go your own way when otherwise you've got this society that's always crushing on you like, okay, well, this music stuff, this is a be like us, this is a have a career, and so this is a do it this way, when actually music is really an expressive art. And if you remember that, it's an expressive art. Like, it's supposed to be self-expression, and if you gotta pay attention maybe to how you influence yourself.
Absolutely. There's a brilliant way to put it.
Yeah, very true. I noticed too, like I don't listen to as much music as I used to. I listen to maybe like some composers like Hans. I have Hans Zimmer, like a album that I throw on once in a while. But like music in general, like the stuff I used to listen to, like I just don't really, I'm not into it like I used to. I've actually kind of lost like some of that taste for some of the stuff I used to be into. And I noticed that I start to kind of get into that mode where like, hey, maybe I'll go try to jam something out or think of something. And you're kind of right. I mean, maybe it's influencing you if you're listening to somebody else's stuff, and then it just kind of overtakes like maybe what you're feeling at that moment. It's somebody else's feelings, or something like that. But it's very fascinating, though. I really dig that that explanation. It's very, very interesting and kind of true in a sense that I've felt the same way too. I've kind of felt like that recently.
It kind of gives you a sort of a pressure sometimes. For me, it's like I feel this pressure of like, to now I think about, oh, I gotta get my chords, I gotta have my bass line, I gotta have my my lead, I gotta have my noise track, do this, and I have I gotta make sure I do that, and that sort of thing. And it's like I'm constantly aware of I gotta chill. I gotta kind of go back to zero, is think of it that way, or it's just like go back to square one mentally. Sure. as you are creative that way.
And maybe even the same thing with art too. Let's see, Glory to Glory says she understands why you don't listen to music, other people's music, and she says it's the same way with art. So like if she watches too much art, or she looks at something that's like too much of somebody else's ideas, it can kind of blend into your own artistic ideas and things like that. So yeah, it's probably goes both ways, when it comes to art and music. So
well, the society would like you to think that there is a right way to do art and music, and I think that is just an absolute load. That art is art, music is music. There is no right or wrong way to do it. If you're making music, you're making music. If you're making art, you're making art. So sorry, just got a phone call there. And that's where my pushback has always come on. That is that anybody telling you that there's a right or a correct way to do something isn't being imaginative enough.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, creativity, man. That's one thing that I really enjoy, is just being creative and coming up with new ideas and just bringing that out to other people that can enjoy it. And I'll be honest, I think that all three of us have made some really cool advancements with our music and ideas and things like that. Mr. Basic and I have been doing this show, I think it's been like a couple of years now, haven't we? Doing just synth shows and talking to people. You've actually interviewed a few people on your Modulator Bay. There was some people you actually talked to before. Some really interesting people from all over the world, and we've talked to different types of artists, people that work with digital or analog gear, people that might even just play musical instruments who are good at doing those things too. And there's just so many different outcomes, you know. Everybody is totally different, and that's what's so cool about it, is that you can find individualism just with each individual person that has their own style or something. And
I've met so many amazing people. Yeah, seemingly by chance, but it's never by chance. I've been kind of inspired eavesdropping on you guys in the Discord, you know, just and some of your tracks too, Audio Surgeon, have been great. And
I can't wait to start playing with some of those. I hope to come more prepared, because we're gonna have some fun crossover stuff. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that as well.
Yeah. So, do you have you said you're looking for people for these new ideas? Was it UI 86? Is that it?
UI 86. That one is now fully cast. Assuming that you're gonna play the character that I want you to play. It's fully cast. There's room for background characters. Those aren't scripted. That's more like, here's what's happening in the scene, and here's, you know, this also gives people the freedom to just make up their own, you know, like invent an imaginary drink to order at the Space Cantina type thing. Allow people that creative play space for background characters. This story has been in various stages of development for over a year. This one has taken way longer than the other ones. After this, we're going to Dirt, the Wild West dark comedy musical, which is going to be much different. It's going to be a little raunchy. It's going to be a little grown up, but also be, you know, pulling on the heartstrings a little bit.
Sure.
But UI 86 recording sessions have already started for that. So the actual production itself, every time I put a date on the calendar, I go, but it's looking like that is dropping this summer very shortly.
Cool.
And some
That's
very
nice.
very cool artists collaborating on that one as well.
So do you have a script that you have written out, and then you just send those to your voice artists, and then they just send that back to you?
Oh yeah. So the script is complete for UI 86. It goes scene by scene. And then, you know, sound design cues are in there in brackets. So if I know, you know, this is the airlock to the dome, that noise needs to be the same every time we come back. So I have the you know, sound cues there. We're in space, so we're not working with footsteps a whole lot, unless we're in like the gravity ring area, which on the ship, the whole story takes place on the ship, and over half the characters are not even human actors. They're text-to-speech voices. Which,
cool.
I'm like, the casting is a lot easier with that. Just go through Apple's text-to-speech voices. So that's probably the most unique thing about this story.
That's cool. That's cool. And then the next one you're going to do is the Wild Wild West one. And so if people wanted to get a hold of you so that way they can try out or potentially be in this, how would they do that?
I mean, studiostargazer.org. I am building, you know, kind of my own, or the Discord. Really, the Discord's better. I'm trying to build my own little social network thing happening there, because the studio does not have a social media presence. We don't do Facebook, we don't do Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, none of that.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, on purpose. So we are trying to build up a place there on the site that has groups for specific stuff. It has a messenger built in. There is an app, a mobile app that people can access, you know, the forums and things from their phones. It's still a little bare bones at the moment, but Discord is really probably, if you want to start collaborating on Dirt, that would be the place to do it. And not a single word of that has been written yet. It's all being sketched out kind of in real time, depending on who's going to be in it and how invested they are as well.
How
much of a main character they want to be. giving people a lot more freedom on that. But there is also the commitment part of it, which is tricky. Running the theater and getting people to try this from all over the world has been a big learning experience, because not everybody has a microphone.
Yeah.
Not everybody even has time. Life happens. So we've hit a couple bumps in the road on that. And then, I mean, UI86 has been recast after recast again, and rewrites and all of that. I'm really trying to avoid as much of that in the future. If people see or really hear what we're trying to do, anybody that's jumping on board, we really want to drive home that the commitment that it's like, we'll take as long as we need, but we need to make sure that, you know, people are going to show up.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one piece and the whole thing falls apart.
Exactly.
So.
It can happen that way. And but I put a link to the Discord server, the Studio Stargazer Discord, in the chat. So if anybody wants to join, that's going to be there. And I'm also going to put it in the description of this video as well too. So that way, if you guys missed this right here where I'm putting it, I'll put it in the description as well too. And of course, your website is on there as well. So if anybody's interested, I think that's a fantastic place to check out, to see all of your cool stuff. And by the way, it's really cool. I don't know how you pull all of it together.
I don't know. I really love what you're doing. Like, I feel like you're keeping the spirit of the old radio shows alive, which is just amazing to me. I never even had been thinking that way, and it just takes me back to some of the old vinyl records where some of those shows are still had been recorded, and you know.
Same here. I was feeling the same way.
For the future, it is kind of the old-timey radio show next evolution thereof.
The next evolution.
And I've had people go all the time, you should do a visual component, actually rock or something. If you do that, if you show them for depression stuff, deeper story, but people get into that and what color was the cat? Because everybody has a different.
I think we're losing you here. I think the signal's kind of chopping up here. Is it going in and out? Okay. I'm seeing, for some reason, yeah, your connection it's kind of low. I don't know what happened there. Oh, I think he disappeared.
You still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Oh, yeah, we lost him. And let's see if he's back. Let's see. Oh,
can you hear me?
You sound really good now. You sound great.
Okay. Well, it's a bandwidthy thing. I'll just leave the camera off.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So it's fascinating, dude. I mean, seriously, the stuff you put together, like I was saying before, it's just, you put together all this yourself. I mean, is this you're writing the script, you're doing the music, and then you have people help you with the voices and everything, correct?
From here forward, I am now the writer as well. We did have a writer, a lead writer, head writer on the first couple theater projects. Mm-hmm. And I really want to start really kind of proving to myself that I can write a really good story, because I know a good story when I hear one, and I know the kinds of stories that I like, the kinds of themes that I like. So this is UI86 is the first piece that's actually written entirely by me, with the exception of some kind of more improvised stuff from my dad. My dad is actually in the piece as the basically like holographic Jesus archetype. He comes to, I go to his character for guidance, and he gives me wisdom and whatever. And I was like, well, I'm not going to script that. Just give me some, Dad. And he knocked that out of the park. So
cool.
Nice.
Yeah, Dirt will be also written entirely by me, but I would very much like to start doing writers' rooms and then developing that scene by scene, and being able to pass stuff across the table. And what if we did this? What if we did that? Because we've never really had that. And when it comes to great stories getting put together, I always think about like the writers' rooms for like How to Train Your Dragon. I'm like.
Have you ever looked into VR stuff? Because
oh my gosh,
me and Basic do this thing where we go into like VR chat, and you can come up with some crazy stuff, and you can literally be in like you can create like your own room, and you can draw out on these boards and stuff, and you can like come up with ideas. How cool would it be if people created like a virtual like writing room for making like skits? That'd be so cool.
That would be amazing. And doing the storyboards and things. I have never used VR gear. I can't afford any, but I would love to get into that space. I also wear glasses though, so that might be a little tricky.
I can't wear my glasses, so next month I'm actually investing in these $80 prescription lenses for my VR headset.
Nice.
Cool.
But yeah, actually, like one of the best worlds I visited was this podcast world, and it's for podcasting, and it's for actually broadcasting things in from there. So they have different camera angles and ways to switch between and everything. It's cool.
Nice.
And like a table with fake coffee cups that you can pick up and pretend like you're drinking.
That's awesome. So they actually have that. That is super cool. I even seen one where this one person does a VR show, and they actually have an audience, and then there's the two people on stage like they do like on the Tonight Show, and then everyone can hear them because they have like a virtual microphone that amplifies to everybody else. But it's all done in such a way where if you're not next to someone, like if you're in a room or something, you can't really hear their conversation unless you walk up to them. So they have VR microphones in there too to amplify it, so the whole audience can hear what they're talking about. And the stuff they're gonna do with that, and just the creative ideas, is just like, it's mind-blowing what they're going to do with it. Yeah, there's some aspects to it though that kind of are strange. Like I do know that we're using the Quest, and the Quest has like capabilities through Facebook, which kind of is it's a bummer, but I think they now allow you to disconnect it somehow. But
as of the update that happened this last week, you can just use an Oculus account, which is them too, so never mind. But
really? Yeah, so, but it's getting to the point where it's so interesting though that I was willing to jump into it this, like, I think last holiday season, and then now Mr. Basics into it, and we're just like learning as much as we can right now to kind of be ahead of the curve. Maybe there's some ideas out there we can implicate.
But I'm looking forward to how VR is going to be in the next year and a couple of years from now, and a few years, and like 3 years from now. There'll be more technology, more ways for it to be accessible to people, probably. So I'm excited for all that stuff.
Yeah.
And all the ways that you can make music in those environments, and the way that people play their music and do play clubs and do DJ sets and play.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, I've actually got a DAW that actually works for VR, and you can actually play these instruments in virtual reality, and you put your hand into the synthesizer. It's actually it looks like a fish tank, and you put your hand inside of it, and you can move around your hands, and it follows your track, like it tracks your hand movement, and you can play this instrument, and it's out of this world, like. And one thing I'm hoping they're gonna do is that you can play with like multiple people and like literally like have a band. Like that'd be so cool.
VR jam band,
so cool.
Do jam sessions. Yeah. That would be absolutely insane. I'm so far behind on most technology now, and I'm also really, really short on time. Unfortunately, I haven't even had the time to game, and I can't remember when the last time I'm like I had chill time to where I could just go hang out in a game for a while. But I've also never done online gaming either. I went into Minecraft like once, and I was just total noob. I'm like breaking stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, don't click. This is cool, but I don't really have the equipment or stuff for that. Like my tower PC is pretty old. It can handle stuff up to like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago. Can't play any new games on there, and then gaming on a Mac is pointless. I'm not gonna try that. It's separate domains. Just like I wouldn't try to make music on a PC, I wouldn't try to game on a Mac.
It's got the best of one thing and not the other. It's always like that. But yeah, Minecraft is super deep. I never really knew how deep it was until Mr. Basic showed me like all these crazy things you can do. And I was like, that's implicated in Minecraft? Like, what? I didn't know they thought that deep into it. There's so many things and parameters and just things that work behind the scenes that you just don't think about. You're like, okay, I'm put a block here, put a block there. But then like time is going through, like, I don't know, there's like a whole time code, and like the sun's going up and down, and oh, did you know if you do this happens? And it's like, no, I didn't know.
Hey, Haze is here. Hey, Haze.
Haze, what's up? Hey, how you doing, man?
Oh,
He's another guy that does a lot of digital, like I'm not digital, but he does a lot of different music types with a lot of gear. He's got a lot of cool stuff, and he does a lot of really neat jams. So if you guys want to check it out, it's pretty cool. He does some cool stuff there. But yeah, that sign right there where Eye of Odin just came in is our 1 hour mark. So I just want to clarify that we've been on for an hour. If you guys want to continue, we can. It's up to you. If you guys want to talk about some stuff, we can actually maybe go into maybe some, like, just talk about random things if you want. I don't know. I know that we were talking earlier.
We've been doing that.
on Discord. We were talking about like 90s stuff. That was pretty funny. Like I know
I'll get
that
into freaking Pogs and stuff.
Pogs, yeah, dude. I still have a bunch of those.
Oh man. Yeah, I've been jamming out on the nostalgia. There is a generational thing. These kids today, man, they'll never know. Our internet used to make noise. It went.
Yeah.
Dial up.
I know.
I'm down to hang out for a bit. I am gonna let my dog outside because he's barking and being a little punk. So I'm gonna grab another monster as well. So if you give me 2 minutes, I'll come back. And if you guys are down to keep going, we'll keep going. I'm having a blast.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah.
Totally down. But yeah, we're just hanging out and chilling, guys. If you guys want to come join us on the live chat, shoot. I mean, if you want to come talk to us too, we can add some more guests on here if you like. But yeah, we're just going to talk it up. And we've been talking mostly about podcasts, music, and things like that. But we're down to talk about computer game stuff, anything really. So if you guys want to type it up or drop on by, we are totally down. I'm actually using the basic version of Restream. We can actually have up to 6 people on here. Did you know that? That's insane.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have your Etherwave behind you. You know they just came out with a new one, right?
Yeah.
It looks different, but it's like the old one.
Yeah, they kind of redesign it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of the same thing, but the thing that's nice about it, I think they added like some extra MIDI capabilities. I think this one I don't think has that.
Well, actually, I don't know though, because the Etherwave Plus is the one with the MIDI capabilities of the one that you have. If you have the Plus, it has the MIDI capabilities.
Oh, okay.
There's the Etherwave and the Etherwave Plus.
Yes.
So
yes.
And there's always been those, right? But then, but like I was looking at a video or a picture, either picture or video of the new one, of the new Etherwave, and I could not find that it had MIDI out. Although I think it had CV out.
Yeah, it's got CV.
Which
this
is
one
great.
Does.
That's what I would use it.
And then I don't know if this one actually it might have a MIDI on the back. I'm not sure. But they do have that new one that came out.
Yeah, and that's cool. But
And
I
that
actually
one,
played the VR theremin in
oh yeah,
VR, and
yes. You
that's
saw that?
great. It's amazing. It's just like that one
It
there,
works
and
just like
it
it.
works.
Yeah.
It's
Just plug in that jack on the headphone thing and put in your mixer, man. You can just
yeah.
how cool is that?
Oh my
And it's
gosh.
free too, right? You don't have
Yeah.
to pay like
Yeah, because I haven't
$900
paid
like
for
this one.
anything yet, and I've just gotten things that are free, and that's free, and it's great. There's another piano thing that's supposed to map to your actual keyboard, so you can play it and play your physical keyboard, but it wasn't working right for me, so it's like,
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, if it's on the keyboard, I noticed that like the one with the theremin though on the VR thing is just it works so well.
yeah.
And anything I've actually been doing with like VR, it's like I'm surprised how well it actually performs. They actually have that DAW I was talking about, and they have a theremin. It's like a 3D version of one. It doesn't look like that, but you can also pull your hands, both of them, in different directions and create like it's like a duophonic theremin or something like that. And it's amazing what you can do with it, though. Just with the hand tracking and stuff, it's so
Yeah, the
accurate.
finger tracking is the real deal for musicians, really. And that's the thing is in VR chat, when you have the finger tracking capabilities, which is it's kind of hard to get, you gotta research and find out how to do it and get it all done. And, and it's not going to happen with your Oculus Quest 2 and stuff like that. But not in VR chat. It's like which it should because they've got those capabilities, right? But that
Mm-hmm.
hasn't happened
Mm-hmm.
yet in that program. We
Yeah,
might
yeah.
get there, but they have their pianos, right? They have playable pianos, like the one in the house that's my main house now. It's like I just go downstairs and play the piano, but I kind of have to do one finger, but it still works pretty good for
Yeah,
a
no,
one
it's
finger
fantastic.
for a 2 finger piano.
Yeah. It's actually quite amazing. So when you turn on the options, you actually have it's like a finger tracking. It actually checks your hands, right? And you can see
Yeah,
your fingers. And there's a
but the apps have to
there's
do it,
yeah, the apps have to
have to
be
support it,
built in
and have
somehow,
the whole
right? Support
program
it.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah. The one thing I can't quite get is when you try to select something, you have to pinch your fingers like this, and I have a delay on mine
that's
for some
hard.
reason.
I decided not to go that route. I just use
Yeah.
I use that, and like typing
Yeah.
and voice and all that. All the keyboard options are too hard for me. What I like to do is I just like to shoot the letters on the keyboard
Yeah, like that.
with my things. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I do too. But it's fascinating how they have like that whole keyboard. And like I remember one time you were like in VR chat or something, and I actually saw you pop up in my messenger, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna type to him real quick. And I pulled the keyboard out, and I'm like and I was typing like I'm typing to you in VR. And it's like this is quite amazing that you can pull up a virtual keyboard and I'm actually typing on it. Sending messages. Of course, it's like so much slower to do, but
they've got a lot more. They added more support for more keyboards now, for more Bluetooth keyboards, so that you can actually just plain use them.
oh, that's
Yeah.
crazy. So you can actually Bluetooth the keyboard to your. I guess you could because it has Bluetooth on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of features with the Quest that Meta is thinking about workspaces and stuff. That's why the Cambria is going to be a more work environment type of headset.
Yeah, and this one program my wife is talking about, Vermilion, that is so cool. You can oil paint, and it's like literally like it's real. It feels real. You can take a brush and move it across the paint, and it smears around, and like it does exactly like what a paintbrush would do. And you can feel it too a little bit in your hand. It vibrates a little bit when you're painting, and that's a cool program. It's called Vermilion. Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
Oh, that open brush is good enough for me, man.
Open
That's
brush, yeah,
cool.
I saw that one too. Yeah.
It's the free, just the free one.
the the thing is you got to be careful with the kids though. When you're going into those VR chat rooms and they have the ability to paint, the one thing that happens all the time, and it happens every single time, you know what I'm
Why?
talking about.
Why is there an obsession with certain parts of the anatomy? I don't understand.
I don't know. I really don't know. The one thing that amazes me is that it happens every single time though. And when you're streaming, you have to be careful. Hey. But yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, the VR stuff is insane. I honestly can't get enough of it. I can't wait. Maybe actually later on, I don't know if it'll be today or tomorrow, but I was gonna do some VR stuff. Hopefully, sometime in the next day or so, just to get back into the gear of doing some VR because I haven't done it in like a couple weeks, and it's always kind of fun to revisit it.
Yeah, I haven't been on as much either, just because I just tried to, figure out a bunch of computer things that are more PC things. Try to how
Yeah.
to get by with only one PC and still be able to broadcast stuff I want to broadcast.
I know. I need to build a new computer. Seriously, my computer. I'm angry with this computer right now. It's been such a good computer. Don't get me wrong, but it is really on my bad side lately. I don't know what's going on with this computer. It is crashing when I load FL Studios. It is, I don't know. Even when I pull up my web browser, like it has this little hang up that happens once in a while, and my whole computer is inoperable for like about a minute. And I don't know if it's like something to do with maybe I got to like reformat or something or whatever the case is, but it is just it's giving me attitude. So
Did you upgrade to Windows 11 or something?
no, this one is not Windows 11, but we do have another guest though.
Ooh,
What's up,
I'm,
Haze?
and, I,
How
and
you
I'm
doing?
back too, by the way.
Hello.
Hey.
Awesome.
Hey,
Hi.
Studio, we have this is one of our friends, Haze. He does a lot of really crazy stuff with all these different gadgets back here. You might really be interested in some of the stuff he's got going on here. So we just want to introduce you to Haze. So what's up, Haze? How you doing, man?
I'm doing okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm not using headphones right now, so hopefully, let me turn this down a little bit to make sure I'm not echoing you. Yeah, good to see y'all. Long time no talk. See all that stuff.
I've been so occupied with so many things that like I kind of lost where I was the past like 6 months. It's been weird with this whole project we've been doing. And so everything kind of got tied up with this whole crypto thing, which is cool. I learned a lot and I think I've gained a lot of knowledge in it. And that's what's important, I guess, at this point in time. But I think I just want to get back to doing some fun stuff and just having fun, because it's been getting really serious with that stuff. And, it's going to be a thing of its own. So I'm just letting it be a thing of its own for now on for, hopefully the next few months or so until we can figure out what to do with it. So and I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about.
Upcoin.
Yeah, it's Upcoin.
Did you hear the Upcoin ad that I made?
Dude,
it's kind of funny.
The first time we talked, it was so funny. You were like, I'm thinking a Subway.
Yeah. Sandwichy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a big Subway boy.
The logo looks like it's got like that theme going, like it's a Upcoin or Subway, like Subway logo thing. But I thought that was hilarious. But yeah,
Now that you mention it, yeah, it does look kind of like a Subway.
I know, right? It's so funny. Like I never thought of that until the Studio Stargazer told me, and I was like, oh my god, like we have to partner with Subway now. Yeah. But yeah, so anything going on that you guys want to talk about? Anything new? Anything that you've explored in the world of music that might be interesting? I've been starting to get back into writing some music. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a while, honestly, on my end. Any cool ideas about any songs you guys are gonna do anytime soon? Or
Well, I just come up with like sounds really. I don't try to do any songwriting per se. I have been jamming in a band. Like I play drums also. So it's been really fun playing in a band recently with a guitar player and a bass player. And I'll let them do all the writing. And of course they get inspired from the beats and the grooves that I provide. And I will like do things that will like spark an interest in them to try to do something different, and then they'll kind of give me feedback on that. And then of course I'll try to like reiterate a groove that's more established in that regard. And I always try to listen to the bass player. But for the most part, like that's kind of the fun part about being a drummer is that I don't really pay much attention to like music theory,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely don't try to like write verses and choruses. I just basically like if something gets to where it's like, okay, this it's time to move on, or I've sufficiently explored this area for long enough. Let's just try to move on. And then I've been just accumulating all this music, and then hopefully someday I'll take it all and edit it down into like 3 minute chunks or something one day
Sure.
when I get really bored.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those things that's kind of cool is that you're actually playing in a band. I've never had any experience actually playing music with any other people. That's one thing that I've always wanted to do, but I've never had the opportunity to actually do it. I had a drum set, but then I didn't utilize it, enough, and then I got the more into like this analog gear and stuff and whatnot. But that's kind of cool, though. I never actually played with anybody. I never actually done any collaborations, and that's something I want to kind of eventually do. Hopefully over the summer. I know that Studio Stargazer here, he's doing some interesting collaborations with these podcasts. They're kind of like an adventure in a way. It's a story based thing, and I really dig stuff like that, and just trying to figure out where to go when it comes to thinking of like a story plus adding some music and just adding like a theatrical kind of vibe to everything. So but that's really cool though, like checking out like what other people are doing like actually in a band and being a part of that. So that's pretty cool. Any other cool stuff the guys doing? Anything?
Oh
Any new
boy.
music, Mr. Basic? Oh, his mic went out. That's why I can't. I think your mic is out.
Yeah. Oh shoot.
Oh,
Sorry, that was me. Um, yeah. I've been learning my drum machine mostly, and it's just this little drum machine that's got 6 channels, and it's got a nice fader for each channel, and it's just and all these performance things like fills and scatters and stuff that you can do and on the spot, and it's just it's great. It's all I'll ever need. But now I'm also trying to really, if I want to go philosophical with what's going on, one kind of cool thing is that I have this organ, this old organ, Kawai organ from the 80s, but it's got MIDI, right?
does
No.
it? That's
And it's
cool.
been my favorite like key bed and stuff like that, for just thing to turn on and come up with my music, right? In the past, before I got into anything electronic. So like I just now decided to try to use that to hook up to this 101 to play different parts on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
To have so yeah, it's the upper does 4, 5, and 6, and then the lower transmits MIDI on 5 or 8, 8, 9, and 11, or so, I think is what it is. And so it's like, okay, I hooked it all up with my MIDI quadra through MIDI splitter,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so I can play different parts, and from my organ. That'd be so cool. But then I realized the problem with it is that back then they didn't have it. It didn't have velocity
Oh, okay.
on the keypad.
Yeah.
And the problem with my 101, the reason why it needs a good keyboard like this already
Mm-hmm.
has, and most modern ones do, transmits velocity so that you'll have some expression. Otherwise, it sounds like a cheap old organ or computery,
Yeah.
bad, uh,
Uh-huh.
bad computer sound
Yeah.
song. If you try to play it on these pads here by itself,
Yeah.
there's no velocity. So
No.
what you need is velocity. And so my organ didn't have velocity, so I had to bring that back out of the studio and put it back over there again and reset everything. And I got rid of my circuit that's been, I mean, not got rid of. It's out of the way, out of here. So they'll force myself to get comfortable with other things I have like this and sequence on this instead, because I'm just I got to break through from doing things the easy way with just reaching for the circuit all the time because it's more limited than something like the
Sure.
101.
What
It's like
what kind of
why don't I play it? I don't know.
What kind of MIDI keyboard is that? The one you have right there. Is that an Arturia?
Yeah, that's a key step, the black
Keystep?
version. Yeah.
That's cool. I was thinking of getting one of those actually because I have a laptop that I want to kind of like do music around the house, like not just in my studio, but just all over the place. I just want to maybe go on the back porch and play some music or something like that. And I was wondering if that's a good kind of like mobile keyboard, like if I could just use that for like any application and if it's like portable and whatnot. So I was
It's
looking at
great.
getting one of those. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice keyboard.
Yeah, I have a white one, and I would prefer to get the black one, but find one that's used, get whichever one is cheapest. You might even be able to get one for $90. I hate to say it, but I saw a video recently, and it looks like that Behringer swing thing
Mm-hmm.
isn't going away.
Yeah, yeah. Neither are these headphones. I think they do the clone of the headphones, but
okay, yeah.
they do a
And
clone of every. They're just allowed to do everything. They just do it in whatever country they aren't stopped from doing it.
I don't know. At that price point, I think I would just rather have the Arturia. Because
Yeah.
it's $120. You can probably get one for 100 used,
Definitely, always.
and they are great. And believe it or not, I don't recommend this, of course, but I have a Okay, so this is just like a regular battery clip. You've seen these before, right? For 9-volt batteries,
Mm-hmm.
and the regular ones, however, are wired center positive. So all I did is I just reversed the wires on them and painted it blue, so I know that it's center negative. And you can get a 9-volt battery in this and plug it into the key step and power it right up.
Nice.
Wow, that's amazing. Which is 9-volt? That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, you're really better off using like a USB power bank, I guess.
Yeah.
But mine keeps disconnect. Mine's such a loose connection back here. It's always a loose connection.
Yeah.
I have to not bump it.
Yeah, I got to be careful, huh?
Yeah, hardware's tough sometimes.
Yeah, it can be. What kind of MIDI keyboard do you use? Studio Stargazer.
I am rocking I think it's the Yamaha P71. So it's the full 88 and they're fully weighted keys. Nice. It doesn't have, too much functionality, like no onboard recording or anything, but it makes an amazing sequencer. And you're talking about how, expressive the software instruments and things are on I Have Odin in particular. That's why, because all of the velocity information and all of that, and having the addition of the fully weighted keys, it really feels like playing a real grand. So it's let me see if you can see it. It's that bad boy.
Yeah. Okay.
Right there.
Yeah, I've always wanted to get a fully weighted one. I have a complete control. It's, if I can aim this down here, it's a Native Instruments complete control. It's the S61 key version of it, and I dig it. I like it a lot. They do make an 88 version that's fully weighted. I would like that, but it's almost too big to fit on my desk, so I don't know where I'd put it all. I could just put it on like a keyboard stand, but I don't know. But they're fantastic though. I like this brand. I think it's it does the job, but I do like something a little smaller that I could just kind of use whenever I just want to hook it up and just play something maybe somewhere else in the house or something like that. Kind of get some inspiration from other places. Sometimes this room kind of gets a little, I don't know, claustrophobic in here a little bit when I'm playing music. So I like to kind of switch it up and do things in different spots, Do you guys at all feel the same way? Like when you want to get some different kind of inspiration, is there like a place you like to go besides your studio to make music?
Nope.
Or do you just mostly stick with studio?
I live in here, so I almost I haven't left the studio in like a couple years. Like, I got bed. Okay. I got entertainment center over there. It's like all in one spot. And then obviously moving the big keys would be pretty difficult. I have a couple of the sequencers. Yeah. I just don't use them. I have a smaller Yamaha. I forget, DGX. I don't know, 250, something like that. Which has more built-in stuff, but it does kind of feel a little bit more like a toy. The keys feel a little plasticky and tinkery, and that's slightly more mobile. And then I have somewhere this little guy. which I have not used. This is the Nectar. And it's got the little drummy.
Yeah,
built
I have
in.
that one too. I have that same
sweet.
one, and I was gonna sell it on Reverb if I can, because yeah.
I've never used it.
Yeah.
I feel bad. It's just sitting there.
It looks like it would be really good, but the feeling, I mean, it sucks. It sucks because it feels cheap when you're it feels cheap to play. It's just like click, 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 and loud. Yeah.
And that's the whole point of having that, right? I mean, is to have a nice feeling key bed. I mean, otherwise, why would you want a key bed? I mean, just get a MicroFreak. Or
just use musical typing. Logic Pro just has this where it's like you could just turn on musical typing and use your literal QWERTY keyboard. Gotta have the full keys. I invested in that was like number one thing for me. Investments in the studio. My God, I gotta have some real keys.
I'm not a player. Like I play drums, so there's no reason for me to have that really. I would have it for other people to play on.
Yeah, my partner actually is saying that I have to get one for my daughter to learn on. That's fully weighted 88 keys, and I always say it's like, well, if you have synth weighted, you can play faster things, blah blah blah. But she insists that we got to have a fully weighted 88 key something, and I'm like, okay. So I got to get one at some point.
Just get a piano.
Yeah.
Just get a real
well,
piano.
that might happen soon. Yeah, actually, that might happen soon.
Yeah.
But I've shopped around too.
Yeah. It's pianos, they can be kind of pricey. Have you found a good one yet? Like one that you're interested in, like getting?
Oh no, I mean the piano might just, an old piano that's like already there.
You could find a piano for free if you can go pick it up and move it. For them.
Yeah, there's
that's
tons
the problem
of those.
With pianos is who wants to actually have to move them.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, unless you got a moving company.
And I'm connected to I've been connected to churches so much that there's just so many organs that I could collect organs and pianos. Yeah.
Really? That's cool.
Oh man, because it really is. It's hard to get rid of a piano.
Yeah.
People just you want to give it away and you can't still.
And this is why I can't play piano too. It's great because I have no urge to want to have a piano. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
No, I wish I could play piano. Seriously, that's like the coolest instrument in my opinion. That's what I like. I always consider like being a drummer. I'm a failed pianist. It's a lot easier to just sort of like take all your fingers and just grab some sticks and do this instead.
Well, I do what I can with the two or four finger method because I'm a mallet percussion player.
The 4 mallets. That's really
how
cool.
I learned.
Do like that. Yeah. Or in like VR, I was actually thinking of Haze actually when I was doing this thing in this program. You can actually play virtual drums, and it's really responsive too. It's amazing. It's like literally you can put them like in any direction or any position that you want to, and then you just freaking go at it, man, and you can just keep going as long as you can. But it's
the irony
pretty
of
cool.
that is that it's actually more exhausting to play air drums than it is to actually. I mean, within reason, of course, but you can exhaust yourself a lot quicker doing air drums than if you're actually playing drums.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, or if you put them up here and you're like going down low and up high, yeah. It's crazy though. Like the stuff they're doing with it is amazing though. What you can actually put together. Like if we could all do like a virtual band, I mean, just imagine how cool that would be.
Yep. The search for no latency on a project like that would be great.
Yeah, and see, since it's all like wireless though, that's your issue, right? Because the headset is all going through like Wi-Fi, so that adds a bit of latency just right there. So yeah, I'm wondering if they're gonna get to that point where you could literally just have band practice on the internet, and you could literally just be like playing music like you would in any kind of studio. That'd be fantastic.
Well, have y'all heard of Endless? Endless with like 3 S's at the end?
No, I haven't.
I haven't tried it yet, but my friend Dave over at Notes and Volts
Endless?
He uses it a lot. He uses it so much that he actually, first of all, he's kind of an electrical engineering guy, and he builds
Ooh.
stuff. So one of the first things he did was build a custom MIDI controller just for that application.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's kind of like, think of like a video switcher, right? That works with Streamlabs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing where, like, instead of using his mouse and keyboard to interface or to couple with the interface, he just has his own hardware interface with some buttons, and I think he's got just some knobs and buttons. No,
That's cool.
I want to say he might even have a couple faders on there, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a collaborative thing.
Yes, and I know that you love faders, Mr. Basic.
Yeah, it's got to be. You got to have the faders on everything. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks actually cool. This it says the Global Jam, so anyone from around the world, you can hop on this.
Yeah, and you kind of change. You can add to and change the jam basically as it goes, and and you can kind of like, at least when it started out, I don't know what it's like now, but you kind of can take a snapshot at any point and go from there and jam from there.
That's
from
cool.
any point from a point in history.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah, I like to see how it actually functions. So, like, if someone, I guess it's collaborative, so someone could change the like, if you change the beat, somebody can change it on their end and then it reflects on yours, correct?
It's a collaborative looper.
Looper. Oh, okay.
Pretty much. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it just loops audio.
Oh, okay.
There may be a few synth engines in there, and some kind of like sequencing and kind of like MIDI type kind of stuff. But I think it's mostly audio loop. Again, I haven't used it. I've only watched Dave when he streams on Notes and Volts. He'll have some jams sometime, and
Cool.
have people in the chat will collaborate along with him.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I've seen like people do some stuff where in the chat, like somehow they can like tie a bot to it, and people can put in like either a letter or a number, and it'll change something. So like that'd be kind of fascinating if they had something where somebody can just send something to the chat, and then like the people watching can then change the patterns or something, or like make music through the chat room or something.
I've seen something similar where someone pretty much implemented this all themselves through what am I trying to say? There is some kind of library that is available in all browsers that allows you to provide MIDI across the internet. So you could theoretically design a web page that has a lot of buttons and sliders and kind of knob looking like type kind of things, and then someone could use that and move it around and transmit MIDI CC and other things, and even have like a sequencer. And that's what this person had designed, and I was just over there just changing the drum patterns while other people were changing other parameters on, and this was all connected to his hardware synthesizers.
Oh, that's cool.
So anything, of course, that had MIDI, because that's how this is all operating, was through MIDI and through MIDI control changes. So I don't think anything was being transmitted via CV and gate, but it probably could as well. I mean, cool. Yeah, you definitely could. All you need is just a MIDI to CV converter. But the problem there, of course, is MIDI handles 16 channels, and you would need like a pretty beefy MIDI to CV converter, that handled a lot of channels. And you would want not just CV but gate for each one. So that's 2 per channel. So that would be a big box.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no.
What don't you have some MIDI to CV stuff over there, Mr. Basic?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I just last night I hooked everything up again, and just the amount of MIDI cables is just crazy. And yeah, but I've got it really simple and nice thanks to this quadra through.
Okay.
But actually that I'm not even really using I'm only using the 2 or 3 of them at a time anyway. But the thing is, it's really easy. It's like I've just got it goes drum machine to start as the master, and then to the keyboard. It just transmits clock through it, but the keyboard plays the MC 101, and then the quadra through allows the 101 to sequence, the system one, the peak, maybe even the mono station, or anything else that doesn't have a sequencer, like the mini brute doesn't have a sequencer on it. And then so everything's covered, and I don't need my circuit anymore, but there's still things I want to make it like a little bit more minimal and easier, but I think it's just about perfect. I'm gonna do a video tonight or tomorrow about just a studio update, not as the real me, but as a 3D cartoon production of me.
Cool.
As a VTuber. I'm just gonna be my first VTuber video, and I'm gonna explain. I'll do a little explanation of why I'm done with my studio, and I'm not gonna get any more gear, and it's perfect.
That'll be cool. Yeah. You were talking about that VTuber thing and how you can actually represent yourself as like a different character and stuff. So I thought that's pretty cool. Yeah.
But I've got my MIDI cable box, like an entire crate of MIDI cables, like still that I'm
send
not
them
even
to me. I'll take you know about my micro station, right, Mr. Basic?
No.
So wait, like I basically have two kinds of videos when I upload to YouTube. One is with all the stuff back here, and the other is just like with pocket operators or like like a couple Volcas.
The top down.
Yeah, exactly. I call that my micro jam station.
Okay, yeah.
And one of the first things that I had to do was, after I set up all the big rig, was try to figure out, okay, how can I set up a micro jam station like I had before? So I finally got all that working out and get the audio, back over to the main mixer so that I can capture it on the computer. Well, I finally got MIDI over to the micro jam station. And because I was just basically bringing audio back, and everything was just self-contained, and I would just use the pocket operators or the Volcas. They don't really need MIDI. They can just use CV as a clock to synchronize with each other, and they're kind of configured so that they work really well with each other as well. You can try to do this with other devices and find that it doesn't work because of reasons that I don't want to get into. But these devices are all really designed very well to work with each other. So, but having MIDI and being able to have my main sequencer, the pyramid, control stuff, especially with like a MIDI clock and so forth. I mean, that would be really cool. And I finally figured out how to do it. And here's the cool part. So I've got one MIDI hub coming out of the pyramid, and it is coming out of out of the second 5-pin DIN MIDI hub. Jack. And from there, I've got one of those WIDI Bluetooth wireless cables, and it's transmitting over here behind me to the VC. What is it called again? The VC340, the Behringer, yeah. The Roland is called the VP330. Behringer called it the VC340.
Yeah.
That's just a tongue twister right there. So MIDI is being transmitted Bluetooth to that synthesizer, and then the through port I've got coming out further over here to a 4-port MIDI hub that is then able to give 4 synthesizers MIDI, and that's plenty for the micro station. But I just thought that was pretty hilarious that all of that is being transmitted through Bluetooth, and but on top of that, the VC340 is also able to transmit Bluetooth back to the pyramid. So I can use it as a master controller. But it gets a little weird there because the pyramid is also able to sequence the VP340, but the 3V40 can control the pyramid and any other synthesizer that is the active track on the pyramid.
Yeah. I had to do the same thing. Just make sure the settings are right for the right kind of through, and whether you're doing active track or not. Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, and then I just that was a pain, but yeah, that's cool.
Take the little dongle WIDI thing out of the VC340 and pop it into my Wind controller, and now it's like I've got a remote saxophone. I can walk around the room and just play any synthesizer.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's kind of cool breath
Yeah.
stuff. Like we were talking about flutes earlier and how hard it is. Well, I was just mentioning how hard it is to make a good flute sound, you know.
I got a great flute sound once out of the Volca keys, and I couldn't tell you how to do it again. I mean, I would spend probably a month trying to recreate that sound. There's a lot of different flutes though, right? This particular one was a very kind of staccato, fluty sound that you might hear, kind of like a jazz flute, like a beatnik kind of jazz flute, but or like a real staccato kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I can let you listen to it for yourself, and you be the judge, if it sounds like a flute or not.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can set up these elaborate setups and just it gets like there's so much stuff happening all at once, and when you're connecting all these things together, and getting like certain sounds and whatnot to sound realistic or whatnot, it's amazing how you can actually kind of almost get that realism that you get from just a real sounding flute. Like Mr. Basic was saying, it's kind of hard to play a flute, but if you can recreate it somehow and make it, how do you say, a rhythmic in a sense where it sounds like it's a real woodwind instrument. That's actually fascinating, how you can get to that point. So yeah, it's crazy. I actually have let me see, I have a few of these Native American, and they're like styled after Native American flutes and whatnot, and I actually kind of learned how to play it a little bit, and they're fantastic though. I mean, to make like just some nice recordings from these, it might even be kind of neat to do that as well. You just throw some reverb on it, and
Oh, nice.
I mean, it's hard to beat the real thing, but some of
Exactly.
that stuff is it's fascinating. Like the stuff that Studio Stargazer was doing, he has these samples, and I swear it
Pupper.
was like he was playing a flute, like that. I really thought that
Yeah,
it
the
was,
trills
but
and everything,
yeah, and
It's they're fully articulated, and they do this with strings too. You can fully go in and change the articulation the way that you want the string to be played, not just the note length or the velocity. You get all that classic MIDI stuff. Where's where does the note go? But then you can actually change the articulation by note and how you want the note to be played. Which it just creates, and a lot of those software instruments are actually sampled from real instruments. So they went in, and that's how they made all those software instruments, is by actually recording real instruments, and so you get a much more real feel.
I know.
Well, I was going to
There's
say, I
some.
think I
Huh?
think that
Go
that's
ahead.
a lot of. It's not just the actual tone, but it's also the envelope of that tone. What
Hmm.
it actually kind of goes through,
Mm.
and yeah, that
Yeah,
helps to get that realism. And I
I
hate
know
to admit
there's.
it, another thing that helps to get the realism, unfortunately,
Mhm.
is the highest, being able to have the highest sampling rate possible.
Yeah. Yeah, so that way you get like a real high quality sample, and then you can kind of do a little bit like, I know there's some dudes out there that actually take samples of certain things, and they can, there's a, it might actually be a plugin within. I saw someone do it with Logic once, and they were taking sounds and they can loop them in such a way that it sounds like when you hold the key down that it continues to keep going. I don't know what they call it, but there is a way to do it where they can come up with a starting point and then an end point, and then it kind of makes it loop over when you're holding the key down, so that way it sounds natural. And then
Right,
of
you get the
course,
zero crossing points.
yeah, yeah. But it is like, from what I've heard, like a really painstaking kind of like thing to do. It's like for every
Oh,
individual
it's not
note.
that bad. I do it all the
Yeah.
time.
Eh, yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
once you know what to look for, and there's tricks, and some things are very difficult to do, but seriously, I do that kind of stuff all the time.
do you time stretch it at all, or do you just use it like? Because I know you can time stretch it. It kind of emulates that.
Depends.
Yeah.
I mean, I generally don't, but you generally like to just to get like a solid sound that's going. And a lot of times you don't even need to worry about like what its time cycle is.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get it to loop in such a way, it almost doesn't matter. I mean, if you notice it, then it matters. But if you don't notice it, then it doesn't matter. And another trick, like if it's something rhythmic, is that instead of trying to loop it, just re-trigger it on the one. Like have it play all the way through the bar and then just re-trigger it when you're
Mm-hmm.
when the next bar comes around. And that way, if it's just even just the slightest milliseconds off,
Yeah.
you won't notice it really because it'll be like at the very, very end. And then you could also have like something else fill in that gap at the very, very end of it to just totally cover up the fact that it's out of time.
Sure, sure. Yeah, they have little tricks to do that somehow. You can actually have like an offset so that way it doesn't sound like it's like cutting off and then starting over again. And then you can kind of make it sound fluid, I guess, in that way.
You could also like take it so far and then reverse it.
Oh yeah,
depending
you could
upon
reverse it,
like
too.
like just the way that the waves envelope, I guess.
Uh-huh.
If they're very like kind of sine wavy, then you can generally reverse it and you won't really notice it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're getting real technical. So if you guys are trying to follow along, like you might not quite get what we're saying, but like if you're into music as much as we are, like it's fascinating though to kind of figure out how to actually do all this stuff and to figure out exactly what kind of things you need to do in order to make sense of it. But yeah, I've kind of been just getting on the verge of learning about how they do that. And I've been messing around with some strings. There's actually some virtual strings in here on FL Studios. It's just a wave file, but it actually kind of, it sounds realistic enough. And then you can go in here and you can tap into some settings and you can make it a little bit, like offset it a little bit to maybe make it smoother or whatnot. But yeah, it's fascinating though. I mean, to figure out how to do all that and to get creative with it, because this one's actually really basic. I mean, I have more realistic sounding ones than this, but
you guys are making me think about granular too.
Mm-hmm.
How you can kind of like if you get it a good granular synth or program like that, you can scrub scrub things and do things and
that's
smooth
cool
that and
too.
smooth out a lot of things. You can totally mangle a sample in a way that it or fix issues with it, clicking in between each type of loop in time it loops or whatever, by the fact that it's just grains can be overlapping, samples can then be overlapping a bit,
Yeah.
kind of like smooths together, kind of like a video transition.
Yeah, there's one on here that you can do. Let me see if I can find it. It's so funny what you can do with it though. Like you can keep it like what is this thing you can do with it? Once I find it, I don't know. There's so many things in this program.
While you're looking for that, we talk about granular synthesis, and that's what gets kind of funny with sampling, is when you start doing things like what granular synthesis does, like taking a smaller and smaller window of the sample and just looping that over and over and over again, you inevitably create an oscillator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love to do. I just love to scrub for different sounds within a sound. It's cool.
Yeah. The only thing is to find like a sound that actually kind of will work well with it. You can always put like a voice, like you could record a voice in there. So like if I recorded like, let me see if I can like record something real quick. Hey, what's up? And then just like drag this in here if it'll work. Come on, insert that in the playlist. Yeah, I guess I'm not really prepared for this, but yeah, it's cool how you can kind of just mess around with it and make some really funny sounds too while you're at it too. Is it there now? No. What is this? No. Shadow Pulse. Yeah, definitely not it. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, one of the things I'm enjoying messing around with is using Drum Designer inside of Logic, which gives you, you have a handful of genres to pick from, and then in each genre you have a bunch of different drummers to choose from in different styles, and then you can change how on a grid between how simple or complex you want the beat to be, how much filler you want in certain spots. You just kind of turn things on and off, but then you can swap out the kits. And so swapping out the track Spirit Monkey, I actually swapped out some of the drum kits with sound effects, like from Rick and Morty and crap. Just using actual sound clips and then turning those into, and then having the drum designer play it as a beat. And that is an absolute joy. I need to start doing more of that.
Yeah.
That's fun. I love taking samples or like things I've recorded and then like making drum beats out of them and stuff and whatnot. Like that's always like, it's satisfying in its own way that you can just kind of like record something, put it in there, and then it's like, whoa, that sounds pretty cool. You know, you can make like a interesting kind of drum set out of just like random things that you can record. I know I did some with like some inanimate objects that I had and just like made this funny like drum set out of things in the kitchen. It's like, ding, like I was beating on like little different like metal things and whatnot. And that's actually really fun. That's one thing I really dig doing.
Yeah, Incendium, I used a glass bottle for that, both as to strike it, but then also blowing in it and then using flex pitch to change the key. A brick. God, I used a bunch of really weird stuff on that album. A brick, a metal pipe, glass bottle, something else, and some other weird sound. The Thunder Tube is a great little instrument. Real simple, just a spring attached to a tube. It makes some cool sounds.
And that had so much like personality to it as well. Like if it's stuff that you did that you record into it and there's like little things that you know about, maybe somebody listening to it doesn't quite know, and you're like, yeah, I know what I did there. That's cool, you know. And that's always like the fun thing about it is you can put things in your song that maybe people kind of overlook or whatnot, and but you know what you did there, and you know exactly how you put together and how it sounds and the way that you made it. So I think that's really cool.
The Easter eggs, yeah, I hide epic crap tons of Easter eggs in my work, knowing that like 99% of people are totally going to miss it, but then there's that one nerd out there that's going to go, "Oh my god!" And I'm like, "Yep, it was for you."
Exactly.
Yeah, certain people who know the instruments that I use will be able to hear what I'm doing right away. Because they're things that they do. That they ended up doing because of having the same thing. But, it's like certain things that are just amazing about a certain module. It's like, oh yeah, everyone with that module is going to absolutely know what I did there.
Yeah, exactly. Or just messing with different sounds you recorded.
And I worry it's not so impressive. Oh, I'm not impressing those people who also have a that,
I have like these slurps. Like it's like me slurping on water. It's like, and you can take it and like put it in the granulator and like just make some really crazy stuff. So like, hold on, let me get the spacing correct, because if it's the spacing's too, hold on, loop it. Where are you at? There we go.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I love doing stuff like that. Like that's one of the fun things to do is just mess around with the granulator and make it like just make it go back and forth across the wave that you recorded on there and just make crazy sounds. I mean, it's like you said, it's like an oscillator in a sense. You can take any sound and just make it sound like it's oscillating.
Whoa.
It's so crazy.
But nice.
It's fun. It's so, I mean, everything about the studio is so much fun.
Yeah, we're always looking for more complicated ways to make fart noises.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
Right.
I've got a patch ready to go that I can demonstrate for y'all real quick if you want to hear
it. Do it. This
is actually one of my favorite patches. Something that I discovered a long time ago. I'll see if Mr. Bass can guess what synthesizer this is. Let's see if this works.
Now we're gonna do synthesizer. What is it called?
Can y'all hear that?
Yeah. That's interesting.
All right, now it's gonna get real crazy.
Is that the Delta Sep?
That's crazy.
No, that was the DFAM.
Oh,
DFAM?
yeah, okay. I
Oh.
thought about that too. I was like, but how? Like, what? Oh, wow. That's some pretty interesting patch you got there, especially with the twinkly computery diddly-littles in the middle there.
So
How
yeah,
did
that
it
was
do that?
okay. That was the Plankton Electronic Spice, which is a bit crusher and a distortion box.
Yeah, that's
And
nice.
what I do is I have, so you got the two oscillators in the DFAM, and you can control both with CV. So I've got an LFO that's being split on the neutron, and one of the copies is being inverted. So one of the LFOs goes directly to the DFAM oscillator 1, and the inverted goes to the oscillator 2. The output of those go into a ring modulator as the signaling carrier, and it doesn't matter which one. And then the output just goes to. Pretty cool, huh?
Oh, why don't I do that? Oh my gosh.
Because one of the first effects, like DIY effects that I put together, was a ring modulator.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, what am I going to do with this? And I just started
Okay,
experimenting.
yeah, it's like the ring modulator, yeah.
We should do this thing where it's a synthesizer charades. So like somebody would do like a sound and be like, okay, tell me how I did that. And everybody would have to guess.
Jeez. That would be tough.
Oh, it would be. Yeah.
That's a good one,
or
though.
which synth is it coming from? At least that.
But yeah, that the whole thing about just to take two LFOs, I can do that easy here. It'd be great, So just do it, just invert one and send them each to the different oscillators, and so it just goes like that.
You've got a multiplier, right?
Yeah.
And an inverter.
Yeah.
Just
and attenuators that invert and all that.
So that way, like they're the same. They're always a copy, or the invert copy of each other. And that's the important part.
Yeah, I can do it with my attenuators. It will invert. I'll do it.
Cool.
I have all my utilities all in one little box there, but everything I ever need.
And you've got. Do you have a neutron, Mr. Basic?
No.
Okay,
those are cool.
Well, at this point, you might want to wait for the proton but you don't need another synthesizer.
I saw that.
I don't know why they did. I joke about Behringer, and I always say, they're so greedy that they will compete with themselves.
They spread themselves too thin. I want some of those little soul. Okay, what I want is the new little the Saturn soul. That's the Jupiter, little Jupiter.
Okay.
Clone that's this size.
I want the Hero Tribe.
Yeah, that's cool too.
Because I've always wanted a mono tribe, and I've never gotten a mono tribe. I've always kind of held back because they're kind of pricey for what they are. I mean, they're cool,
you guys haven't seen these new line of little synths that are like Volca-sized that Behringer has come out with now. There's also a Model D one.
Yeah.
And they have the key beds of a Microfreak.
I think what's weird about the Model D, I think it's one oscillator, but 3 voice, which is just bizarre. So I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. They're $50 or $100 depending upon how many features they offer and how big they are.
Yeah.
The Hero Tribe, I think, is going to be $100. That little Model D, though, the one you're talking about, the Jupiter, might only be $50. I can't remember.
Well, actually, and there's another little Jupiter-based one that's a 4-voice. That's even smaller. That's the size of a Monotribe.
Okay, that's the $50 a Monotron.
A Monotron. That's the size of a Monotron, and that's the $50 one.
Okay,
that would be cool too. I just watched again the sound video of that just because it's nice.
Sure, I think I have it over here. Yeah, I mean, this thing right here is great. This is the coolest thing in the world right here. The NTS-1.
Yeah.
Huh. That's cool. It's so small.
It's got effects and everything, and can serve as effects for anything you put into it. Audio.
Yeah, and it has MIDI in as well.
That's cool.
It has a built-in speaker, which I keep forgetting that it has a built-in speaker. But it has a lot of space inside of the case right here. And what I was thinking about possibly doing is modifying it to have a couple cell batteries so that it would, It would be better actually to have some kind of like rechargeable battery instead, though, and just kind of piggyback off the USB port that powers it, and just have like a rechargeable battery somehow. That's the only thing that's missing from this. Is just you have to have a USB bank to go with it or whatever. But it's this. It has some really useful effects as well. And what I love about these things are using them as just like test devices for like, getting just a sound source of something, just to like, so that you like test other test equipment, for example. Comes in really handy for that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Thank you,
that's
Glory
neat.
to Glory.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. That's what we do around here. We like to make sounds. So that's the fun thing, is actually sound designing things, is coming up with different things that sound totally unique and different than anything else. And you can actually spend hours just on doing that. That was one of the things I was really into when I first started with analog gear, is just messing with sounds, LFOs, filters, and things like that, and just making sounds. And that's like the funnest thing. I mean, honestly, the one thing that I kind of miss is like that first moment when you just get into synthesizers and you're just like, what does this do? What does that do? And then you start learning, and it's like, oh, wow, that's crazy. You can do even further things with this. And it just goes down that rabbit hole. It's really interesting, though.
I still have a lot of manual reading to do. Much manual reading to do.
That's the one thing. I just never get to the manuals. I'm always having too much fun.
I have to. And Mr. Basic really knows what I'm going for here. I think a lot of people don't understand why I do what I do. Mr. Basic definitely does. And I think one thing I can say that he will appreciate is that the point that I'm going for now is I've almost gotten to the point to where I want each synthesizer just to have a sound that I just use that synthesizer for that one sound.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And then I can kind of maybe vary it, accordingly, which is what's cool about these synthesizers, being able to kind of like work with that sound. But for the most part, just kind of sticking with like trying to figure out like what the synthesizer really shines at doing and sticking with it.
Yeah. Everything finds its place. Yeah.
At some point.
Well, there's so many cables to work with. You just don't want to keep on working with them after a point,
Yeah, exactly. And that's what the patch bay is for,
Yeah.
That was a nightmare too.
Yeah.
Oh boy, those are they're once you get them set up, they're great, but set a weekend aside, kind of thing. And like, probably the problem with that is inevitably you're going to change your mind.
Oh yeah. That's one thing I'm sure I'd have a heyday with that, because even just to set up a mixer the way I want it, because I don't like to move things around too often. I want it to be where I could just switch a button or something, and then it'll be what I want it to be every time. So when you're doing things with cables and stuff, and things are going this direction, that direction, and you're like, wait a second, I want to try something different, but I want it to be like this every time. It's like, oh my gosh, it gets crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of sad when it's so hard to think about turning everything on, that I go outside of my studio always and turn on the organ, just press the power button and play it instead, and I've got this whole studio over here. Well, I've always done that, and it's like, that's just kind of, should I feel bad about that?
Well, there is. I have the same kind of. I don't want to call it a fear per se, but it really is. It does stem out of fear in the sense that when I turn everything on, if something doesn't turn on, am I prepared at that moment in time to troubleshoot?
Figure
it out. So real quick, the other day I was changing one of these cameras here. They're on these little stands, and I was repositioning one of the stands. So to remove it from where it was, I had to unplug a power wart. I said to myself, you're going to, you shouldn't do that. You know better than to unplug a power wart. But I did it anyways, because there was no way I could get my hand in there to get this thing out. So I get the thing out, and what do I forget to do? Plug it back in. Several hours later, I go to turn on my synthesizer. I'm just sweating bullets when I'm like, why don't I hear the neutron? What happened? And luckily, but yeah, all kinds of little gremlins are just waiting.
Oh yeah.
This is
this is one thing to always take in consideration before getting into stuff like this. I know Studio Stargazer, you're probably thinking you want to get into analog gear, right? But there's all these things. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I need like a warehouse first. Like I'm gonna need a lot of space and a lot of money.
Exactly.
My setup right now is deceptively simple. I use a MacBook Pro, really tiny, simple little interface for the. I don't even know if this is going to be able to come over far enough, but the damn it, I think I just lost power. Little for the mic.
Cool.
Can you still hear me?
Yes.
And then just the keys with a single USB-C. So my setup is ridiculously simple. I would love to just collect and build a whole like Foley studio at some point that does the real deep sound design stuff that I would love to get into, and then just have tubs and tubs and tubs of different things that I've used for different sounds. It's one of the dreams to definitely be able to do stuff like that.
Have you ever
One piece
thought
at a
of
time.
have you ever thought of any kind of equipment that you were looking into, any kind of specific synthesizer that you might already have in mind, or does anybody have any recommendations? Maybe
I
for
never
first
have
time?
recommendations, honestly.
Yeah.
I need to know a lot of like, what, like there's so many needs, and like what I would, what I recommend to anybody is the first time you get something, buy the cheapest version of it that you can. And if you break it right from using it and you love it, then maybe you want to get the more expensive version. And then once you kind of get an idea from there, then you can figure out like, I want to buy this expensive thing, or like right behind me is the most expensive synthesizer that I have. One of them, like the Delta Sep A, and I purchased it like way down the road. I had this budget where I would say will never buy anything over $400. And so that's my only recommendation is for people starting out, is to like just have a budget and don't and just limit yourself. You see something that's $1,000, just forget it. Don't gas over it at all.
And
Yeah,
and whatever you have in Studio Stargazer's case, is really actually just going to be an addition to what you're doing, because what you're doing is the best, most ideal thing. And you're going to miss all of it if you try to do that with synths, and stuff, and then just put it all together that way. But at the same time, it's like, okay, this is something that at first I thought I was gonna look for like the perfect all-in-one, and I still really kind of, my ideal would be the perfect all-in-one, but nothing was ever good enough that I actually got, and nothing ended up being the all-in-one, and so I had to add and add and add.
Mm-hmm.
I don't,
Yeah, I concur. I never looked for an all-in-one. Is that I knew that there wouldn't be one, so I just kept buying as many little things as I could. The main difference in what I do with this gear and to what I would be doing with just a computer is that with a computer, you can actually save as you go a lot more easier, and you build right as you go. This is a series of loops where it's all internal up here, and it's almost it's a memory game. It becomes a point to where everything is all memorized up here, and I can't really necessarily see a piano roll and all of the different tracks laid out. And that's something else to kind of keep in mind. I see a lot of people when they get into modular, they try to get away from something. Inevitably, they just come right back to the thing that they're trying to get away from.
Yeah, that happens too.
I see modular people though that know what they're doing too. Though, don't get me wrong. They build great stuff.
No, that's psychology that goes through kind of, I think, all of us who get into stuff like that. Yeah, I've experienced that myself a lot, of just going down the wrong. You never know what the right path is. You just never know. That's true. Whether you really want something or not, or need something or not, or whether something's gonna be a good piece in the puzzle or not, or what is the puzzle. And you had the wrong idea about if you're not already successfully doing it, how do you know that you even want to do that?
Exactly. Or like you buy a mono synth and you're like, wait a minute, I can't play all the keys. Oh, it only plays one at a time. I want one with like multiple voices, next. And then you realize that it's a very expensive journey to have a multi voice synthesizer or something like that. And then it becomes like, okay, well, I want to upgrade to this, or I want to do that too, and you got to combine these two things, and then it becomes like this bigger picture that you didn't see from the beginning, and then it just kind of adds up.
I think most of the reason I have hardware is vanity. It really is, and I'm not ashamed at all of that.
Yeah,
It's just it's art. It's visual as much as it's anything. It's my experience is all I care about, because maybe because I'm older or whatever, and it's just, and it is mostly, if it's mostly for me, I can always just call it a hobby, because I'm not gonna do it for someone else, but more, something that I don't want to do ever, and so that kind of limits me to just to I don't making it all about my experience, right? So I don't have any qualms about just getting something, because it makes me feel good to just have something like this because it has silver knobs and a black face, and on top of being good at what it does. That's why
Definitely.
I get it, because I like to feel that. Oh my gosh, it feels so good. Look at that.
Yep.
Oh, it feels so good. As opposed to something that feels cheap, or something, hey, go for it.
Cool.
I think those are good reasons to get into hardware, because in the end, you find out it's always going to be sort of vanity.
Sure.
If you can do it in the computer, it's vanity, sort of why you're doing it,
Well,
exactly.
Embrace that.
Yeah.
For me, it also is a
I look
little
at
bit
that
of
way, too.
inspiration, though. I throw my vanity somewhere else, to be honest. Since I'm a computer engineer and I work on a computer all day long, it's not a lot of fun for me to use a computer to create music with.
Yeah.
So this is a complete breakaway from any of that. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch in a sense, because each one of these little things is its own little microcomputer in a sense. But the difference is the coupling to the interface. In this particular case, the computer is your keyboard and your mouse. Hey, and speaking of which, I'm actually looking to get the HydroSynth Explorer.
Aha!
And I'm going to wait for a year, maybe. I'll wait to see one. Somebody will sell one for $400, and I'll buy it.
That would be the one keyboard I would get top on my list right now.
I was always interested in that one.
I don't know what I would recommend though for someone starting out though. Like I said, I don't give a recommendation. But what I would recommend to get two things. To get like a drum machine, an analog drum machine, or like a Roland TR-8. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Not a sampling one either. Don't get a sampling drum machine. Get a limited drum machine. Get one that's going to force you to work with its limitations. And then get like an analog mono synth like the Behringer Model D or a Neutron. The Neutron is a little thin, so that's kind of why I recommend the Model D, because it's boom. I mean, it can really just blow your socks off. The Neutron can have a lot of bass about it and everything, but it tends to be icing on top of a big, thick, fat bass cake. So like something like that, though, just either of those two things, and those two things will kind of throw you out of the completely digital world that is a DAW and VSTs, which is the whole reason why you want to get into hardware in the first place, I think.
Right.
Sure.
But yeah, knob per function. You don't want to get into something that also has menu divey things on it, but is hardware.
Yes. And two things you want to be thinking about, actually three things. One is, how do you control these with MIDI or CV? But how do you sequence them and synchronize them? That's kind of a thing that you're going to have to start more money you're going to have to throw at the puzzle to get it to work. And the other thing is, what do you do with the sounds? How do you mix the sounds back together? I've got like 6 mixers over here that I'm using right now. Not just one mixer. I've got one big mixer and then several other mixers, kind of like smaller sub mixers that are like 8 to 10 channels. Like I've got one that's like a 24 track. And so yeah, more things. And then the third kind of ancillary thing would be outboard effects, because that's where it gets real fun.
The effects, yeah, definitely. Those are the best part, honestly. But we've been going for about 2 hours, so if anybody has to leave, just let me know. I don't want to hold anybody the whole day or anything like that. But we have been going for a couple hours, so do you guys want to continue, or do you guys want to kind of wrap it up? Or
I want to hear the Rick and Morty drum set.
Rick and Morty?
maybe later, but that is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. If you search Spirit Monkey, it should be one of the only things to come up. There is a version of that on. Oh no, it's not there. There's a version on Audius somewhere, and narrow this down a little bit. Okay, yeah, it's on Bandcamp too. But that's the most fun. Just taking Justin Roiland's voice, like we're on a first name basis, using his ooh-ees and Mr. Poopy Butthole and all of this, and then chopping it up and go ooh,
right? Yeah,
it's a bit of a mind melter. I lied. I actually do have a piece of quote unquote gear that is never come out of the box, and that is my talk box. I invested in a talk box like a bunch of years ago, and I've never busted the damn thing open, but I was just like, oh yeah, I need one of those.
Cool.
So I still haven't started playing around with that, but that's going to be huge amounts of fun, I'm sure.
That will be huge amounts of fun. Taking any audio out through it and then recording it back in. You can get some really cool effects with that. A lot of spit too, but really cool effects.
Super cool, man. Well, yeah, definitely. I'm gonna link all those things in this video too. If you guys want to check out Studio Stargazer's website, his YouTube. I also have the Discord. I'm gonna link that as well. It's also in the chat. So, guys, I encourage you to join his Discord, and we can collaborate. Definitely. We should think of some cool ideas. If we all have some ideas we can toss together, and maybe we can make something really cool. I think that'd be a really awesome idea. Honestly, I think creativity is bringing all of us to this point to where we can come together and talk about it and have fun with it, and to expand on it too. I mean, we have a lot of knowledge. I mean, through all this stuff, connecting up all this, mixers and analog gear, all the way down to like DAWs and learning how to use, things within a digital realm. I think that we've kind of got it all covered. So we can dream big. Honestly, I think if we can come together and find a place to do that, I think that's absolutely fantastic. And,
for sure.
That's one thing that I really admire that he has is a really cool website where people can put their ideas out there, and he's got a lot of really cool ideas. Honestly, I think so. The music is fantastic, by the way, too. It's awesome. And if you guys want to check it out, studiostargazer.org, and it's right there. Actually, his name is right there. The only thing is, I wish you can click it and then you could just go right there. But it's in the link. It's on the description of this video. So, do you guys want to continue, or do you guys have something to do? Because I don't want to hold anybody up. But we have been going for about 2.5 hours. What's that?
I'm gonna get going.
Yeah,
I need to as well. I've actually got some music that I'm finally getting around to creating. I've been taking a long break. Work's been killing my creativity.
Yeah,
oh, feel that.
But making money is important.
Yes, 100%. So this summer, I'm feeling creativity. I definitely got to get back on the wagon too.
Yeah.
oh hell yeah! And there will be literal wagons in dirt. I'm gonna use the Slurpee sounds. By the way, I'm gonna use your Slurpee sounds in the saloon. And then something else. What I want to do is, because Drum Designer it lets you just swap out drum noises for any sound file wave. You take I wanted to use this part as the snare. What I want to do is take a classic trancey beat and then swap it all out for like washboards and jugs and crap to make it sound cool. Like
nice.
To where it's a literal techno beat. And this is for the barn rave. At the end, I'm going to make it a barn rave.
That's going to be awesome.
And the big track that's going to be there is boots and pants, boots and pants, and boots and pants and spurs.
Spurs.
That is going to be awesome. Spurs. Yeah, that's going to be probably the most fun music track on that one. I'm going to do some honky tonk stuff for the saloon too, but the barn rave is the BJ, the barn jockey.
The barn jockey.
Dude,
oh my
it.
god.
So yeah, I'm going to try to recreate as much of that energy with just using classic trance electronica stuff, but then just swapping it all out for old timey stuff.
It's all Western trance.
But yeah. Wild West.
I dig it.
That's
cool.
the next big opportunity for people to get in and help workshop that and go scene by scene and develop characters and hide a bunch of Easter eggs, because that's one of the most fun parts. Obviously, it's like hiding little references to other great stuff. And the Western comedy is one of those things that I've been really wanting to do for a while. But this one's like going to be way dark and kind of messed up on purpose to reflect what it was actually like to live here back in those days. It's not going to be a glamorous story by any means, but it's going to have a good solid amount of comedic relief, tons of super fun sound design, and I need good slurps.
Yeah, I got them right here.
For love it.
I need like a little soundboard so I can do that, right on the dot. Boom, boom.
Yeah, I have never had that, and I haven't even figured out a way to output my sound from Logic into something else, like into something like this, so that I could play and you guys can like hear stuff in real time. I don't know. It's going to have to go out and then back in probably somehow, but then there's going to be all kinds of weird latency crap. So that's one of the things I would like to resolve someday soon.
It's a chore to do once you figure it out. If you have like a setup that allows it, it's oh my gosh, it took me a while to figure it out, but yeah.
I have a couple recommendations for that. This is the highly contested or contentious or whatever.
Yeah.
Akai MPX8. Like, you love it or you hate it. I think the reason why people don't like this is because they want to use this as a music production station. And that's not what it's for. It's just a simple sampler. And all you do is you just got a little SD card. You put your WAV files on here. It needs to be a certain format. I'm not sure. I think it plays, it plays stereo, but it has to be the right, sample rate and so forth, which is pretty much just CD quality. But I think you can lower certain things to get more, there's plenty of space, because you've only got 8 pads anyways. I mean, as many as you want to put on here, you've only got 8 pads, but that's all you need, right? You just hit a pad and it plays whatever sample you want.
That's cool.
And these, you could buy these used for like $60.
Ooh.
If you wait and shop around. Brand new, they're $100.
I was gonna get one just because it has velocity sensitive pads for MIDI to the drum machine that doesn't have velocity sensitive pads.
That's where these kind of get you in a little bit of trouble. I mean, they're best when you just hit it with full velocity, because I mean, otherwise it kind of goes. It's almost like a square wave. There's not. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it goes from like, wow, I can't even hear it at all.
Curve really easily.
And in fact, that's a feature that I use it for, to mute a sample when I have it. There's 3 different modes, like loop mode, trigger mode, and gate. And gate, you hold it down and let go. And trigger, it just like plays out until it's finished. But you can use it, like you can trick it out by hitting it and then hitting it really soft, and it will kind of stop it. So you can use the cons of a device as a pro sometimes. But the second one is the Yonder Pocket Operator. This is the KO33, the Knockout, and it's a sampling pocket operator. The problem with the Akai that I just showed you is it's not a sampler; it's just a sample playback machine. You cannot sample with it. This you can actually sample. It's got a built-in microphone, so you can just sample whatever you want to.
It's really
easy. It's amazing. It will also it has 2 modes. One is like a straight up like a regular sample, but the other will take it and splice it into a drum set for you. So it'll take whatever sample and it will splice it across the 16 pads as different moments. And there are YouTube videos out there that are sample drum sets that you can record into it and have already have like a drum set ready to go. So real quick, you can only like play like for each drum set slot, you can only play they're monophonic, meaning you can't play the hi-hat over the snare and the bass drum, but you can copy the sample to another slot and then you can, play the hi-hat with that instead.
Cool.
So they're great. They're absolutely amazing. Who's it? Ken Pierce. He agrees. He's actually the one who convinced me to get one. This was like I got the PO35 and I said I'm either going to get the 35 or this one, the 33. And because I got the 35, I said, well, I'm not going to get the 33. And he finally convinced me to get the 33 because he said it is hands down the best pocket operator on the market. If you just get one pocket operator, get that one.
Nice.
I use my looping pedal as a soundboard, but it's because it has 5. Here, my RC505, because it has 5 channels, like that you can just press one and play it, and it's I have different birds from Yellowstone in here, talking about Foley stuff. That's what I've got. Pick off me birds right now. But yeah, you can just put anything on there.
That's a whole nother option, Stargazer, right there, is just getting one of those loopers. And fun. Going hardware dollars that way.
I've really wanted to get into more live looping stuff. It's just not something that I've ever gotten into, but I do work in loops. And my way that I just use a 4/4, and then I'll make a loop stack, make a huge loop stack, and then basically copy paste all the way out. And then I call it Mario blocks, where I'm just like creating little bridges and little canyons. And so I'm using the same loops over and over again, and then just kind of organizing them in a blocky kind of color coded way. So loops are kind of my jam, but I've never done like live looping stuff, which is something that I always enjoy seeing people do that.
Those cost like
street artists and stuff.
Those are like, what, about $500, Mr. Basic?
Yeah. It was the first thing I ever got, thinking that it could be my studio itself. And I was wrong.
Well, no, I disagree.
Right. I could have been right.
It still can be.
I could have been, because it has, you can put on one pad up to 3 hours worth.
Whoa!
Wow. If you want, if you don't record anything else on it, that's
yeah.
But so it can record a whole song, but it's kind of weird. It's quirky. And,
it is for live performance. Like
sure.
It's for me like that kind of thing. That's why I play in a band. It's because when I play in a band, I get that kind of that satisfaction of that kind of performance, and that kind of creation, if you will. Because it's more. I mean, yeah, that live looping in that sense is the far extreme of using a DAW to craft a song, because you literally have to perform on the money. And you get a couple tries.
I've underused it, but I think it's just I kind of somehow decided that I must not have the looping workflow mentality, and I'm definitely won't be doing the beatboxing, and I don't seem to get myself to sample things in and a lot and take samples of things from real life and all that. So I don't know. For some people, they just want to do these things already, and they're just boom, boom, boom. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I just didn't get myself to do any of that on there. So
check out if you ever look on Twitch, there's a streamer called the Graceful Bard, and she uses that is the RC505, right? She uses that.
I listened to her on Twitch. Yeah, totally.
And I'm pretty sure she does. And there's someone else I know, Tatsu and the Keys. She also uses one.
Yeah.
And both of them do a lot of singing as well. So and most of the people who I see use that device and use it to their advantage, they tend to be singers.
Yeah, people who use loopers just make me think that I'm
Yeah.
not a looper person, but that's just because maybe I haven't gone that route. I don't know.
I'm not a looper person myself. I mean, I've tried it and it's kind of neat and everything, but I prefer to use an actual sequencer.
Sure.
That
I've
stuff
never
is just
even
great.
tried, but it is something that I might be able to swing that. I do think in loops.
I think you can get like a software version just to kind of maybe like experiment with to see if that's something that you would be into before you actually invested. But I stutter. The good thing about hardware is that if you play it smart and you like buy something as a deal, if you sell it, you're not really going to lose any money if you're not in a hurry to sell it. And sometimes you can actually make money, and you really can't do that with VSTs.
Yep.
Sure.
Legally.
That MIDI keyboard you got, I'm gonna sell that. I'm gonna sell my launch pad that I don't use. I'm gonna sell the this compressor that was $400. I'm gonna sell that. I'm gonna sell this this mixer that I have that's a rack mixer, and just so I could probably get. I went on Reverb and added up like $850 worth of stuff, so I could probably get something out of all that.
Oh yeah. Well, you put all that up for sale, and they will start selling one by one. Reverb is active, and another flip side of all this is like I paid $100 for this. If I wanted to sell it on Reverb, I would probably try to sell it for $60 because I know it would sell. If I sold it for maybe 80, it would, but it might not sell for a couple months. It will take, like the more you price it, the more people, just kind of wait. And eventually, like kind of, you have to wait for somebody actually has to do a search and they're actually on the market looking for something before they'll even consider yours at that point. But if you sell it like at 60, it's probably going to sell pretty quick. So I lost $40, right? If I paid 100, I have made so much music with this thing though, that I would consider that just, I rented it for $40.
Sure.
And I've got like, I don't know how many tracks that I've used this on. 20, 30, 40, 50. A lot. So that's just kind of how I look at the whole hardware game in terms of like the money that you spend on it. It's an investment. It's been kind of, I don't know, it's getting kind of weird right now, right? With the chip shortage and everything. I haven't really seen anything crazy going on yet in terms of like prices fluctuating or anything. I've definitely seen some things like there's one particular electro-harmonics pedal. I think it recently went discontinued. So you start to see the price start to do this. Boom, 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 boom. Starts to go up and you're like, oh, should I buy one? It's almost like a cryptocurrency at that point.
It's like crypto.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're getting into the territory of what's going on in the world right now, financial wise.
Yeah.
And I don't want to continue going right quick, but I do want to say this real quick before I go. This will be the last thing that I mention. Is everybody's talking about the chip shortage right now, but has anybody really been talking about FPGAs, field programmable gate arrays?
No.
You see, if those chips, right, if those particular chips there's not a shortage of FPGAs, then now's the time to start replacing a lot of because that's what FPGAs can do is they can clone any other chip.
They're easier to make.
Now, like back when they first came out, they were very expensive and very hard to make, and people were just then learning how to program them. So now we've had a lot of time for people to learn how to program them and to share how to program them correctly with us. So they're a little bit easier to program now than they used to be as well.
That's what this one uses. That's why it's the absolute best synthesizer ever made in history and ever will be. Because
Which one is that?
The Peak. The Novation
The Peak. Really? I didn't know it was FPGA.
If I need another synthesizer, I will only ever get another Peak.
There you go. Wow.
It's the one.
I'll have to think about getting one then.
Yeah. And if I want another 3U one, I'm only ever going to get another system one. I like the thing. I like the decisions I made. I think I made the right decisions.
Yeah, obviously. Because, I mean, your studio looks great. I mean, it is, everything is symmetrical and it's the sounds that you want. And I've heard some of the stuff that you've been doing. You've made some incredible sound design.
Well, it's the function. Yeah, it's the function that matters too, and that's why it was so hard to find things that look right. And if they didn't, I had to put silver knobs on them. Like this.
Sure.
This didn't have silver knobs on it. You know, it's like I have to. You know, I have to do that. But first comes what it is. You know, underneath it, the fact that these all are knob per function, knob per function, knob per function. Everything's on the face. And it can save a patch. Cool.
Nice. Well, I think we been going almost like 2.5 hours, so I think we might wrap it up here and just let everybody know that check us out online. Go to studiostargazer.org. Check out that stuff. I'm going to put links to everybody in here on the video. So if you want to check out their YouTube channels, check out their music. They've got some cool stuff. Mr. Basic's got some nice analog music. Same thing with Haze and Studio Stargazer with the studio stuff. It's fantastic. I encourage you all to check it out. We were playing those songs earlier. I can actually play that out while we're going to exit the show. But it's been really fun, guys. I really enjoyed talking to all of you. So it's really cool we can come back and have fun again. And dude, honestly, like I said, this summer, it's the summer of creativity. Ugh, I can't speak. But yeah, definitely. We should definitely
Sure, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Definitely.
Absolute blast. I learned a lot, and I look forward to listening to more of your guys' music. And digging in there. I feel very fortunate to have been able to be here today and have so much of my work spotlighted. That nobody has ever done that before. Invited me onto a show and played my music on the show. So that was, I was like, oh, of course you can.
Well, I hope everybody can share the show if they want. They can put it on your social media if you want. If you want to make a podcast out of it, I'm going to make this into an audio podcast too. So to try to get as much exposure as possible, we'll post links anywhere we can. So anybody's welcome to use it. So our show is everybody's show if you guys want to use it. So just want to let you know.
I love
You're
it.
Awesome.
Mindwave has a similar model, so I'll probably, if you're going to prepare an audio bounce of this for the podcast, I'd love to have one for Mindwave as well, so that we can take some of my Mindwave peeps and get them over to you guys. That cross collaboration.
That'd be awesome. Come on.
Yeah, everyone, check out Audio Surgeon's podcast, Life in Space as well, which we're on, right? But still from everywhere else.
If you're here, check it out.
I'm barely around, but it's still around. But Upcoin too. Maybe we'll do some advertising on there too as well.
If anyone's interested, sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Audio Surgeon, Mr. Basic, it was great seeing you again. Stargazer, it was a real pleasure meeting you. And I look forward to hopefully speaking with you all again. And Inverted Popes just showed up, by the way. He says hello.
Wait. Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
And unfortunately, we're just ending. But thanks for having me again.
Oh, no problem, man. Maybe we'll do another one some other time, and then we'll continue this. So it's been fun. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you on the next one. So thanks for joining, and we will be back another time. We'll see, hopefully. And everybody, stay creative. That's what I'm talking about, being creative. So we'll see you on the next one.
All right,
bye.
Bye. Let me see here. It is